Here's a question for you, Michael. What is going on with feet?
With my feet?
Yeah? Well, not just yours, but also yours.
Okay. No one knows what's going on with my feet because I never show them off.
Do you not?
Okay, I guess I did once when I stepped on Legos, like for a bit to get views. But when I was a small child, I had hairy feet. Yes. And I was walking around barefoot one day, and my dad's friend, whose name was Al, like I'm not afraid to name and shame, he looked at me and he goes to my dad, he goes, "Whoa, your son's feet have a lot of hair on them."
Wait, how old were you at this point?
Okay, in my mind, I'm like 4, but I'm sure I was like a teenager.
Are we talking about like sort of soft, downy children hair, or are we talking about like
No,
thick
we're talking
man
about
hair?
like look at my beard, and then imagine toes coming out of it. It's almost like that. Even at home, I've been married to my wife for 10 years now. I still just wear socks all the time, so she won't go whenever she sees me.
Are they still hairy?
Well, yeah, I haven't shaved them.
Wow.
But this episode is not about me.
Okay,
this episode is about our entire species.
It is about our entire species.
And I hadn't really thought about it until you mentioned it, but they are a bit weird.
They are very weird. They're very different to other animals' feet. And that is what we're going to get into it. But listeners, don't worry. We're going to come back to Michael's feet as well, because I've got more questions.
I have no more answers. Or do I? This episode is brought to you by Cancer Research UK.
Scientists have found that cancer risks usually increase with age and size, but some species defy the odds.
For example, deep-sea Greenland sharks. They can grow over 6 meters long, weigh more than a small car, and yet live for up to 400 years.
Now, understanding how Greenland sharks' cellular repair and immune systems seem to have managed to keep them cancer-free for centuries, that could open up exciting research pathways.
Essentially, over millions of years, evolution has been running the world's most successful cancer prevention trial. And sometimes breakthroughs can be found in unusual places.
So, by exploring the unexpected, Cancer Research UK scientists are uncovering new ways to tackle over 200 types of cancer. Their work has helped to double survival in the UK over the last 50 years and continues to save and improve lives around the world.
For more information about Cancer Research UK, their research and breakthroughs and how you can support them, visit cancerresearchuk.org/the-rest-is-science.
So I was in Cambridge the other day having lunch, and I ended up chatting to a colleague of mine called Shreyas Mandre. He raised this question with me, like, why are human feet so weird compared to every other creature that exists, okay? If you think about it, the same solution has evolved over and over again in the form of hooves and trotters.
What's a trotter?
A trotter.
Like a paw?
It's on a pig, you know?
Oh, okay.
It's got a split. It's got kind
but
of like toes.
But it's different than a hoof. Pigs don't have hooves, do they?
It's sort of halfway between. It's slightly softer than a hoof.
See, I'm not afraid to admit what I don't know.
Do you know, I'm also now worried about the limits of my own knowledge of trotter versus hoof.
Is anyone Jewish here? Because they would know. They've got that whole rule about you can't eat a hooved animal unless it chews cud.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think trotter might be a kitchen word.
Yeah, because if you look up pig's trotter on Wikipedia, it's a culinary dish. And the picture is pretty
grim.
Like, it's good. It illustrates the trotter.
That's what you needed.
It does not look appetizing.
It does not.
It looks quite undignified.
I would not want to be that pig, put it that way. Okay, but
Hold on. If you're gonna be a pig who's going to be slaughtered, you could do worse than being the pig whose trotter gets pictured on Wikipedia for eternity. You're immortalized.
I don't think I would care that much about legacy as a.
Oh, I would. I'm in it for the legacy, for the fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the photos.
The immortality of my trotter.
My little trotters.
Okay, here's the thing, right? Hooves make really good mechanical sense. You know, you want to be a fast, heavy runner. You evolve hooves, right? You're not damaging the ground. If you want to sprint and hunt, then you evolve paws. These are much softer. They're like squishy jelly bean pads. If you want to climb, then you evolve a kind of second pair of hands, which is what you get with monkeys. human feet, what is going on with them?
Right, it's kind of halfway between climbing and not climbing.
Right,
It
running.
can't grasp. But monkeys have much more opposable toes.
They do.
In fact, my daughter has a book about human evolution, and it's got all these artist renderings of early hominids, and they all have like hand feet. So yeah, well, and not only is that different, but also Homo sapiens are the only animals on this planet that wear shoes.
Right.
Now, we put them on horses.
Sure.
When they're doing labor for us, we'll put them on dogs, but only when the dog is going to be walking on something we made, like asphalt or concrete. By the way, do you say asphalt or asphalt?
Asphalt.
Oh, you say felt.
I don't know. It doesn't come up that often in my world, I'll be honest.
Well, anyway, and so what's going on there? Our feet are weird.
They are weird, but I think the shape of them in particular. When people first started trying to make robots, okay, the first time that you sort of needed to like construct a foot to see how it could work, and they tried to make these like flat feet, just like kind of moving like this, right? Which is, maybe that's how our feet have evolved. Maybe it was that we were previously climbing trees and then they just became slightly flatter, slightly less able to grip around the trunk of the tree and slightly more attuned to going on the ground.
To
right?
walking,
These sort of flat feet. So when people first started building robots, they made these perfectly flat feet, and it was a total disaster. Because what that means is if your feet are completely flat, you can't roll forwards.
Right.
So instead, like the early robots like Asimo, which is a particularly famous one, they have to, if you look at them, they have to stand essentially with their knees permanently bent in order to be able to move forward. Right. It's really, really energy intensive to like kind of lift your feet up this way. And if you look at an ape walking, that's essentially what they're having to do.
Oh, really?
Because their feet are so flexible,
Right.
that when they are down on the ground, boof, they have them very flat. And so their knees and their hips are continually having to be bent in order for them to propel themselves forward. It's like really energy intensive. They don't like doing that at all. Would much rather be in the trees.
And so a firmer foot that's less flexible, like a human foot, is better for walking.
Right, you sort of want the rigidity in order to be able to kind of press off, but you also don't want it to be flat.
Right.
Because the flat obviously takes a lot of energy.
It needs to be somewhere in between.
Yeah, but then here's a question, okay? You don't want it to be flat, you want it to be rigid. Why isn't it shaped like a rocking chair? That would help you propel forwards.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
that would make way more
I mean,
sense.
I need to be able to move it. Like, I need my toes to be able to sometimes give more or less resistance to the rocking motion.
Agreed. But like this effect of like rolling
Yeah.
forwards, and yet our feet are arched exactly the opposite way.
They are, aren't they? Yeah.
So this was a genuine puzzle. Why is it that our feet are arched that way around rather than the other way
Can I
round?
make a guess? Or I would guess that it's like architectural for support. That arch, just like an arch in architecture, holds weight better than like a saggy rocking chair type foot.
I don't think that's the primary reason.
Okay. So what other reason is there?
It's probably because standing still would be really difficult. If our feet were bent like a rocking chair. And people have tried this with robots as well.
Right.
So the sort of next generation of robots had rocking chair type feet. But then standing still would require you to continually tense yourself. You'd have to like permanently be locked in place.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't work either. So instead, with the arch the other way, it means that you can kind of create a triangle between the big toe, sort of pinky side of the foot, and your heel, and you're kind of sitting on a little tripod, right?
Two
So
little
you're
tripods. Yeah.
kind of be in a relaxed state. But in the 1950s, people were like, this does still really not make a lot of sense. Like, why have we got this? Maybe the foot arch is there for structure, but, it makes sense why we don't have these flat feet. But what is going on? Like, why are our feet in this particular shape? So in the 1950s, this English orthopedic surgeon, he was like, guys, I've cracked this. I've worked it out. He was kind of looking at the human foot, and he knew it couldn't be a rocking chair, but he also knew that if it was just this floppy bag of joints, this insane number of bones,
Like a monkey foot.
then we wouldn't be able to push off, and it would be really, really difficult. So he was like, right, there must be this kind of structure that's going on in here. This is the explanation that he managed to come up with, okay?
Oh, you've got a cardboard model.
I do.
Looks like you built it yourself.
I did, in the car on the way here.
It's got like an arch. It's like a cardboard shaped boomerang.
Yeah, it's got 3 different parts to it, okay? So those of you who are watching, you can see this is sort of like Learn with Hannah.
Yeah.
This is my model of the foot and how a foot works, or how they thought the foot worked in the 1950s.
Okay, so let me say what I'm seeing.
Go on.
3 parts. One looks like a boomerang shape.
Yep.
And then attached to one end is a little ellipse that is hinged, like with a brad, so it can swirl around 360.
Yeah,
Except
I mean, that's not what you want in your real foot.
that's not what you want, and I can tell that because you've connected the far end of the boomerang to the far end of the ellipse with a rubber band.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a bow and arrow type shape.
Exactly. It's like a bow and arrow type shape, exactly. So what you can't quite see here, I've essentially split the foot into 3 sections, and then we have like a tendon running between them. So here is the heel,
Right.
it's kind of the back of the foot, and then you have essentially the foot arch
Yep.
that goes up and over, and then this here is the toes, okay?
Right.
So now
The ellipse is the toes.
the ellipse that can move around is the toes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it hinges there.
So here was his idea. He was like, the foot being this shape, like a bow from a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
This makes perfect sense because when you put your foot down, you've got lots of nice kind of elasticity, so your foot doesn't get damaged. The string from the bow hits the ground first and absorbs lots of the energy as you hit the ground. But if you move forward by lifting your heel up, then what you're doing is you're tightening this bow. You're tightening the tension between your heel and your toe, and that's the thing that's giving your foot this structure. That's the thing that's giving your foot this strength, this stiffness, in order for you to be able to push off and move forwards, right? It's something that just made absolute perfect sense.
Yeah.
As a result of this explanation, by the way, stood for like 70 years. Everyone was like super happy with it. And it led to something called Jack's test, which you can do it on yourself. There was a bit of me, Michael, that was going to suggest that you get your feet up for this, but maybe not.
Maybe later.
Maybe later. But if you stand barefoot...
It's for the rest of Science After Dark.
Yeah, that's the subscription.
Yes.
You know, I think Lily Allen once said she's got OnlyFans, but she only shows pictures of her feet.
Okay.
And she said that she makes more money from that than she does from her actual music.
I believe her.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, she probably doesn't have like Ticketmaster fees and a recording label to pay.
Very true.
She just snaps them with her phone.
Okay.
And ka-ching.
Ka-ching, hello. I'm going to come on to that a bit more later, the foot fetish stuff. It wouldn't be a proper episode about feet if I didn't mention it.
No, we have to.
We have to. Okay, so there's this thing called Jack's test. If you stand barefoot with your weight on the floor and you have somebody else pull your big toe backwards, so you're kind of standing like this, and then you get someone else to effectively tighten
So they like
this
pull
elastic.
it up.
They pull your big toe up. Yeah. Then you will see your arch tighten, basically. You see your arch kind of getting
Tighter.
more stiff, essentially. And everyone was like, well, this is the proof that his explanation is correct. It's very clear that moving the big toe moves this tendon, the plantar fascia, that runs between the front and back of your foot. And everyone was like, well, there you go. This is it. We worked it out. This is absolutely fine. And then what would happen is this kind of like really fed into the medical understanding of what it meant for feet to be working correctly. So you might have heard this idea of people saying you're very flat-footed.
Yep.
And that being considered a real problem.
Right.
And it comes from this exact same explanation, that if your foot is too flat, if your arch is too narrow, then you can't get the tension properly, and it affects the way that you end up walking. There was some confirmation bias going on in this too, because people would go to doctors and they would say, we've got loads of pain in our feet. And the doctor would look at their feet and say, well, it's because your feet are flat. I can see that there's a flatness to your foot, and that must end up being a problem.
Okay.
The slight issue, right, with this explanation, well, there's two. The first is, if this really is the way that feet work, well, then how come people who do have completely flat feet can walk?
Yeah, they can.
They can. It is possible. You don't actually need the arm.
Well, I remember being told as a kid that I had flat feet by my doctor, but I didn't know what the symptoms were supposed to be.
Right.
I could walk fine. I could run fine. It's never been a problem.
What did they say about it?
I don't remember anything outside of he made me walk around barefoot in the doctor's office. Maybe he just wanted a free sweeping of his floor. They're not that hairy, guys.
Maybe he thought your feet were so flat because he couldn't see through all the hair.
He couldn't see through all the hair. It was like this forest. No, but I remember him telling my mom, yeah, he's kind of got flat feet. But then nothing ever came of it, so...
Right, and it doesn't matter at all because while some people who have pain in their feet have flatter feet than others. There are also like loads of people who've got incredibly flat feet and like run marathons and do all the stuff, and they're absolutely fine. Like they're completely fine.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
And then
and there are plenty of people with really nice arches who have...
Absolutely, completely. The other big clue that this explanation was completely wrong is that for this explanation to work, the way that they constructed it is that you sort of have to fuse the heel and the arch. You kind of, this particular joint is like quite rigid in the explanation. But then it turns out that there have been some surgeries where people who've got really bad arthritis have had that joint physically fused, and it makes it really, really difficult to walk.
Right.
So how can it be?
And this is the joint between the heel and the rest of the foot?
Let me get the exact...
I didn't know there was even a joint there.
There's lots of joints. I think there's 30 joints in the foot in total.
Oh, goodness.
This is sort of pretending that there's 2.
Right. But there's...
It's called the navicular medial cuneiform joint. Okay, and if you fuse it in the existing idea of how feet work, not a problem at all. But in reality, makes somebody's ability to walk significantly worse. Wow. So it's like, well, this is like, there's something wrong going on here.
Something missing.
Something is wrong going on here. Very recently, in 2020, this paper that my colleague at Cambridge was involved in, a group of scientists, mechanical engineers and biologists, essentially, were like, something's going on here. Something not right. So they decided to look at the foot from a completely different angle. Because this entire time, when we've been thinking about the mechanics of the foot, we've been looking at the arch that runs from the toes to the heel.
Yeah.
But this group were like, well, hang on a second. There is another arch going on in your foot. Your foot doesn't just bend front to back, it also bends left to right. Like if you think about the way that you're...
Like a Pringle.
Like a Pringle, exactly. You're looking at your feet now.
Yeah, I know, but I've got shoes on, so I'm like, no, it's pretty darn flat. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Your Converse sole, aren't you? Yeah, exactly. And actually, they were like, well, hang on a second. Maybe the stiffness, because your foot needs to have this stiffness in order for you to be able to push off and propel yourself forward. So they were like, maybe the stiffness is coming from the arch that runs in the other direction instead, rather than front to back. Maybe that one's not as important. Maybe it's side to side, from the big toe to the pinky toe. So what they did, got hold of some cadaver feet. Gets gruesome.
Keep going.
They mounted these feet into this like quite heavy duty materials testing machine where they would like press weights down on the foot to see how much force it would take to bend the midfoot.
And these were cadaver feet that were not compensating for the extra weight. They were just looking at the structural properties of the foot,
and nothing else. And then once they'd done that, they then got out some scissors and they started snipping the joins between the toes.
Right.
Not just between the toes, but in that direction, right? Trying to break the arch that runs from left to right.
And watch when it fails.
And it turns out that this, like, really decades and decades and decades old understanding of the foot just crumpled as the snips took place. Because almost all of the rigid structure of the foot comes from the left to right arch, not the front to back up.
Wow.
Like completely shattered this biomechanical dogma that existed. Yeah, when they ran the numbers, the front to back arch only accounts for about 25% of the foot's rigidity.
Okay.
Now the reason why this works, the reason why you get this stiffness, something called Gaussian curvature, the reason why you get stiffness from there being a bend, it's a bit like, when you have a slice of pizza.
Yep.
So a slice of pizza, if you try and get it in your mouth, I'm doing this with a piece of paper. It would be much more fun if it was actual pizza. But
I'm imagining.
You're imagining, okay. If you have a slice of pizza and you try and get it into your face.
Right, you're holding it from like the crust end,
exactly.
So the tip is going to flop down.
It flops down really easily.
Yeah.
But what people automatically do is they realise that if you fold it along the length of the pizza, then when you try and get it in your mouth, it remains straight in the other direction.
Wow. Now, I've seen the famous like TED Ed animation about this pizza, why pizza folding makes things rigid. But you're saying that this is also what makes our feet rigid and great for walking.
Yes. So it all comes down to this idea of Gaussian curvature. So Gaussian curvature is something that measures the curviness of a surface, and it's made up of two numbers. So one number is how curvy it is in one direction. The other number is how curvy it is in a perpendicular direction.
Perpendicular direction.
Exactly. So if you imagine that you're on the surface of a globe, right? Say you're at the equator, one number would be north to south, how curvy it is in that direction, and the other would be east to west. Now, the key thing, it's positive if it curves away from you.
Okay.
Now, the key thing about Gaussian curvature is that you cannot change the Gaussian curvature of a surface unless you cut it or warp it.
Right.
So if you start off with something that is completely flat, like a piece of paper or a piece of pizza, if you start off with something that is completely flat, it has zero Gaussian curvature.
Yeah.
Which means that even when you bend it, it has to end up with zero Gaussian curvature.
Right, so when you bend a sheet of paper, you produce, say, positive curvature
in one
along
direction.
one axis.
Yeah. Now, the only way those two numbers multiplied together can still make zero is if the other direction is zero. Right? You've forced it to have a positive number in one direction.
Yeah.
And a positive number times zero is still zero. So you have forced it to have zero curvature in the other direction.
The curvature of a flat sheet of paper is zero.
Zero times zero.
In all, 0 times 0.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's the product that matters.
Yes.
So if you create a curvature of, say, 1, I don't know what the units are, but positive 1, that means you're like turning your page into a taco. The curvature in the perpendicular direction needs to be 0, because 1 times 0 is still 0.
Exactly. So this is why the folding pizza thing works.
Yeah.
You force it to have a positive curvature in one direction, which means it by the law of curvature has to not have curvature.
Sure,
in the
yeah,
other
the
direction.
only way it could have a different curvature in the perpendicular direction now is if it warped or broke.
Exactly.
Which it's strong enough not to.
Exactly. It's the same reason why corrugated cardboard works, because you take the paper, I mean, it's actually quite thin, corrugated cardboard, right? But you take it and you curve it, you deliberately give it a curvature in one direction, which means that it then can't bend in the other direction.
Right.
So it's the same with your foot. You deliberately curve it in one direction between your little toe and your big toe. And it means that then it cannot curve in the other direction, which means that it has this stiffness as you propel yourself forward.
I want to take a quick tangent and talk about globes.
Yeah.
Because the Earth is going to have positive curvature to the same degree in both east-west and north-south directions.
Absolutely.
On those axes. So its curvature, if we call it 1 in each direction, is 1. 1 times 1. What can I do to a globe such that the product of those two curvatures is still 1?
So actually, with the globe, this is the reason why maps don't work.
Yeah, because if
It's
I try
like
to
the
flatten it,
opposite
I'm changing its Gaussian curvature from 1 to 0.
And so it doesn't work.
It'll get ripped, right.
Without you ripping it, cutting it, or warping it.
Are there other shapes I can bend it into that still have a Gaussian curvature of 1?
Yes, not a cylinder, because that's got a Gaussian curvature of 0, because it's bent in one direction but not in the other.
Yep.
Not a Pringle, because that has got positive in one direction and negative in the other. It's still got to be positive, because that's the only way that you get a positive number overall. So you're looking at oblate spheroids,
right?
Sort of like deformed balloons. That's essentially all you got.
Okay, all right.
But, let's save this for the globe episode. Let's see what kind of crazy deformed balloons we can make.
And crazy deformed maps.
Yeah. But back to the foot, though.
Please.
This is so maybe this is what was going on all this time. And it has since been confirmed. They've done high-speed x-rays of what is going on with the foot. So where you can take an x-ray as somebody is walking or moving their foot, sort of move away from the cadaver feet at this point. Watch a runner essentially move around while having x-rays
with
done.
a slow motion x-ray. I would love to watch those.
No.
Wow.
Actually, in fact, I think I have some.
How did they get volunteers for that? Because x-ray videos are amazing. I've seen x-ray video of people swallowing and chewing. But of course, it's a carcinogen, all these x-rays being shot at you. So it's not a good idea. They used to, of course, have actual x-ray boxes at shoe stores.
Yeah.
You could put put a shoe on your foot and then stick your foot in the box and look through this window and see the bones of your foot and how they were being squished or not by the shoe.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
That was a bad idea.
But they were helpful if you didn't want to live a long time.
Yeah. And have comfy feet.
If you wanted comfy feet, if you wanted the next few years to be really comfortable, they were great.
I think you can think of everything on a spectrum, right? Between how much you care about comfy feet versus how much you care about wanting to live, right? And in the limit, if my feet were excruciating all the time, I'd be fine with a shorter life, you know? So this is just...
there you go. Exactly. It all balances out.
It all balances out. All balances out. Yeah, when you do these X-rays, it's like the foot is this spring-loaded trampoline. Essentially, you're just the second before your toes leave the ground, the arch just visibly recoils. It kind of springs back into its curved shape, and that elastic bounce releases all of that stored energy, throwing the body forward,
moving you forward.
Moving you forward. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I really like that a lot. They ended up going further because they were sort of, okay, well, if it is about this way round rather than that way round, when you go back in the fossil record, it was before this paper came out about the direction that we know that it matters in. There was a bit of a question about this because some of our ancestors, Lucy, for example, the one that was found 3.2 million years ago, right, has like these very flat feet.
Flat in the direction of toe to heel.
Flat in the direction of toe to heel, but not flat in the direction of big toe to little toe.
Okay, so is that evidence that she was a walker?
It's evidence, yeah.
A bipedal walker?
Yes, that it was like this. She was essentially transitional. She was somewhere between climbing trees and walking upright.
So then what's the point of the curvature from toe to heel?
So that still helps with the...
It's a quarter of the support. A quarter, yeah.
It's just not providing the stiffness.
Right.
It's helping you propel forward. It's part of the kind of trampoline-like spring loading. It's just not the thing that's giving you structure in order to be able to like lever yourself forward.
Okay.
But it looks as though this evolution of the big toe to little toe arch came about 1.5 million years before our genus.
Really? Before Homo?
Before Homo, yeah. This is a key evolutionary step as to how we learn to stand.
Oh, interesting.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that good? Here's the thing I really like about this, is that this paper was published in 2020.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's like no time ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah, so has this been studied further? When are we going to see it folded into what podiatrists recommend and the way shoes are designed?
Great question, because I think it's going to probably take quite a long time.
Yeah.
Because you're right that actually a lot of the time, the way that shoes are designed is about thinking of the arch, thinking of the front to back arch and trying to support it and so on. But yeah, I think it probably will end up taking a lot of time. But I think it really does demonstrate just how good science is at never sitting still and continually questioning its own. This is like completely common knowledge, right? You pick up any textbook from the last 70 years or so and this is like, yeah, this is absolutely how it works.
And it's not.
And it's not.
So not only were these researchers willing to keep questioning, they also found such a fun but gruesome way to test it.
That's gruesome.
Taking cadaver feet, putting weight on it, and then snipping muscles, like mutilating this foot to watch how it withstands the weight and the destruction.
You know, the other thing you can see from the fossil record, you can see the exact moment that we invented shoes.
Oh, go on.
Basically, it's somewhere between 26,000 and 30,000 years ago.
So not that long ago.
Not that long ago. After clothes, actually, we were wearing clothes.
We were wearing clothes before shoes.
Clothes before shoes.
Now that's almost surprising to me because I think, all right, certainly you need clothing when you start migrating into colder climates. But no matter where you live, your little footsies are going to get hurt by rocks.
Well, not really, because you just build up calluses on them.
Sure.
I mean, that's what dogs have.
I've got little dainty princess feet, and I can't even walk on sand without being like, ow! But that's because I never expose them. They have no chance to build up calluses.
Oh, right, okay. This is probably, this is the combination of two together.
So how do we know that shoes came about around there?
Because of toes.
Oh.
Yeah, so what happened is our toe bones, our small toe bones especially, suddenly became really pathetic.
Oh.
Yeah, before they were like
used to
really
be.
strong and, you know, amazing.
So you're saying that our little tiny pinky toes, like such that sometimes the nail on it is so small you can barely paint it, it's because of shoes?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because they don't need to be as strong anymore when you've got the additional support
The
underneath.
support from the...
I'm quite a big fan of walking around in bare feet, I've got to be honest. You know, like on holiday, if I could get away with it, I would just,
Just be barefoot the whole time?
yeah.
Yeah, not me. I don't sleep in socks. That's like the only time
We
my
don't need to, you've
dogs
got
are
the
out.
warmth there already.
They're already warm enough. They get too hot, yeah, if I wear socks at night. But in the mornings, I'll get up to make breakfast, and I'll be walking around barefoot, and I'll just be like, whoa, this is so inappropriate. I feel so naked. And so I don't know what my daughter thinks, because I'm always like, oh, I got to go put on socks. And she's like, why? And I'm like, well... because I've lost my mind. A long time ago, I did.
I'm still upset about something that someone said
Yeah.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
I think I've seen a picture of your feet, though. Can I tell you why?
You better.
Do you do you know about? I mean, we said we were going to get onto foot fetishes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Michael, do you know about Wiki Feet?
I do.
Do you know that you're on there?
Am I really?
You are.
Well, like I said, I did show my feet off in my Lego video, but otherwise,
Let's.
do you have my Wiki Feet page bookmarked?
I did look at it the other day. So essentially, there are a lot of people who really care a lot about feet.
Yeah.
Find feet extremely titillating, should
Yes.
we say. And there is a website called WikiFeet, which collects... Is it called WikiFeet? I was... Feetopedia or something. WikiFeet, there we go. There is...
How does that portmanteau work? Which one do they put
Which one did
first?
they do? Which collects feet pictures from celebrities, and then other people can go on and rate them and enjoy looking at them.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at a picture of your feet right now.
So you gotta show me what photos people have.
I don't think these are that hairy.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's from the Lego video.
Okay, so here's what they have. I mean, I think that's a normal
I may
amount
have
of
been
hair.
exaggerating for
Comedic
laughs.
effect. There's
But
also this
hold on
one.
a second. I want to. Oh yeah, when I jumped in the water. Okay, I don't swim in socks. There you go. I'm not some kind of like never nude foot guy. But wait a second. What's my rating?
I know.
on Wiki?
I have your rating.
What is it?
You've done pretty well.
No.
Hang on. Let me get mine up. I want to see who wins.
Oh yeah.
The thing that I find extraordinary about this, apart from everything, is that, oh gosh, there's pictures of us together on mine. I mean, as I say, I will wander around without shoes on quite a lot of the time. My foot can't even sneak into shot somewhere without it ending up on this website.
Exactly. Yeah, and you gotta control it because that's a gold mine.
Right, this is clearly worth money.
Gotta gatekeep it, or dollars are the ticket.
Look at
So-
this. This one's gone on there.
Oh no. Yeah, you got some arch poking up from the shoe. See, now, as a guy who reads a lot of internet comments, I know what you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm a fool.
Or should be doing, depending on your goal.
I do actually. I mean, I do think about it now when being in front of the camera. Like, okay, let's not.
All right, but stop stalling. Who wins? What's our
One of us gets 4.82
out of 5?
out of 5,
Oh, let me guess who's who.
and one of us gets 4.88.
Okay, well you're 4.88
Correct.
for sure. I think 4.82 is way too high.
I think it.
That's probably only based on like 2 ratings. One is from like my mom.
No,
and the other's
12.
From
12 ratings.
ratings.
Yeah.
But how many ratings do you have?
More.
How many more?
More.
Hundreds or thousands?
No, not thousands.
Not thousands. Not yet.
Imagine if that's the conclusion that people draw from this
So
episode.
this was all just you're fishing for like more ratings on WikiFeed. It's okay if that's what you're looking to do.
Do you know, there is a bit of me that's like, I sort of don't really have a problem with it, like people having a fetish for feet, because they do, right? And like, it's not like you're, I'd be okay with setting up an OnlyFans as a feet thing. Am I saying that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would just say that maybe you wouldn't like it because you'd rather them focus on other things about you.
Yeah, true.
But
I did think about actually once setting up an OnlyFans, but all it is me drawing equations on the blackboard fully clothed.
yeah, you should do that. I mean, it's OnlyFans is for the fans, and I think that's what they want.
I just think it'd be really funny.
Let's talk about fetishes around feet.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a fetish, what is it really? It's an interest in a part of the body that is not a primarily sexual part.
Yeah. Yeah, or something that is not primarily associated.
Or something, yeah, right. So how come foot fetishes are seemingly so much more common than like an elbow fetish or an armpit fetish?
Yeah. So there is one explanation.
Okay.
But there's not a lot of studies on this, essentially. The one explanation is that in your brain, there is effectively like a sensory map that relates to every part of your body. So there's a bit in there, a certain part of your brain lights up when you touch somebody's hand or they're in a scanner and so on and so on and so on. And it's almost like a homunculus, right? It's like a map of your body that is in your brain.
Yeah.
And in that map, it has been proposed that feet and genitals are extremely close together so that you can imagine that in some people there may be some overlap in kind of cross-wiring. Right? So you play around with somebody's feet and they essentially get sexual stimulation.
Right. So, I mean, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But you're saying we still have a lot more to learn.
Still have a lot more to learn because I think that the original studies, or original study rather, acted as though it was like and there you go, that's the answer.
Right.
But I think subsequent follow-up has demonstrated that it's just not quite as simple as that. There's much more variation that you get within humans. I mean, you're right there that it is like this really prevalent thing throughout history. The Greeks and the Romans, I mean, they were really into feet. There was one philosopher called Philostratus who wrote... He thought that the reason why he was so into feet was because he wanted to be a human doormat. Just so his lover would step on him.
Okay, but then that, to me, becomes a second thing as well, which is dominance and submission.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that that's where the whole origin of foot fetishes comes
Maybe
from.
it does. I mean, there's also the Freudian suggestion. Do you want to hear
what's that?
Freud, see if you can... As Freud generally does, it's completely unhinged. Freud says that a foot fetish is because it's a trauma response to coming out of your mother's womb, the feet being the first thing that you see, and then realising that your mother doesn't have a penis, and then thinking that her feet are penis-shaped, something, and that you imprint on that.
Well, look, maybe that explains my fetish for doctors. Because the first thing I saw when I came out of my mom was a doctor, and I was like, "Hey!" And it was a trauma response I had because my mother's wearing scrubs. Like, anyway, I don't. Sometimes this Freudian stuff, it's like a fantasy.
It's hilarious,
and I think useful in the same way that like fantasy novels are useful and they can be so inspiring. But I'm just like, I don't know how any of this is scientific.
It's not.
I mean, some of it I guess can be, but some of it I'm like, wow, this is really creative.
Well, it's not falsifiable, is it? It's just not falsifiable.
No.
Unless you, I don't know, like do a controlled trial where you get half of all women to wear socks while giving birth.
Yeah, exactly. And then you check the future fetishes of those babies, and they're like, I don't know. But see, they might just wind up being really into soft feet.
The thing is that when it comes to fetishes, you can learn a fetish, though. So there's an amazing study with rats.
Okay, tell me about it.
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, so what they did, they wanted to see if they could give rats a fetish. So
I love this.
They took virgin male rats and they gave put a little jacket on them, cute little jacket.
Okay.
And some of the jacketed rats were put in with females, and then they all had a lovely time. They were like, "This is brilliant. These jackets are great." And then the others, when they put on the jacket, they were introduced to females, but they were not allowed to copulate. Okay, so they were like, right, so this is like the jacket is a cock block,
right,
essentially,
right.
And so they sort of did that a few times, and then for the final test, they took the jackets off of everybody, of all of the rats. But the rats who had learned that the jacket meant good times, okay, they then didn't know what to do when they weren't wearing the jacket. Because they had like so closely associated the jacket. They were just like, I can't, no thank you.
I can't get off without my jacket.
I need my jacket to enjoy this. Vice versa, the ones who had learned that the jacket meant like disappointment,
Nothing. Yeah.
when the jacket went on, they were like, no, thank you, I'm not interested. Can't do it. Can't do it while I'm wearing this.
Yeah.
So it's like there is some evidence that this is learned.
There's some learning and some associations.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't find that surprising at all. I think, as you get to know someone better and you have all these experiences together, the roots of your trees grow closer, and you start to just love things about them, physical things about them that you find so much more exciting than you used to, because I don't know, it's them, it's theirs, and you love them. So I find myself, I don't get too personal. Basically, basically, as I get older, I find my wife more and more attractive.
Oh, that's a lovely thing to say.
And I'm not just saying that for points or anything. I'm saying it because I've heard comedians, old comedians, make jokes about this too. And I'm like, yeah, that really is true.
Right, that's lovely. That's lovely. But it's like the learnedness of being with her and around her.
And then, what's the difference between just admiration, oh, your hair is so wonderful, and a fetish?
I don't know. Is the jacket on or off? That's
right. And just how much do I want that jacket on? Do I think it's a nice jacket, or do I think it's a nice jacket? Right. It's probably there's a spectrum.
Somewhere between. You've got to decide every day where you are between those two endpoints.
I do.
What I'm looking forward to is my Cambridge colleagues listening to this podcast, and the first half being like, "Well, that's really I'm very, very interested in science communication." Sorry, what are you talking about? Rat fetishes?
No, I'm glad someone studied that. Because
it's good, isn't it?
I would be embarrassed to be I need money to do this study.
Do you want to see the jacket?
Yeah. Oh, wow, that is so not sexy.
It's not sexy, is it? But some of the rats thought it was.
Some of the rats learned to
Some of the rats thought it was. And some people think feet are.
And some people like nostrils, And I think the world needs all those kinds of appreciation.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate you.
We certainly do.
Thank you for listening. And reach out to us, ask us questions at therestiscience@goalhanger.com.
And we will see you next time. Thank you.
See you next time.
Here's a question.
Duel 3. Let's rock. Duel 1. Let's rock. Slap. Duel 2. Let's rock.
電子流動を切り替える。
氷よ広がる。もう一つそこ。もう一つ目黒。お雪。
戦況を笹の実いかない大地僕にも意地がある鍛える気に
Slap. Positive bonus.
流れ
Positive
止
bonus.
めな。
Positive bonus.
止めな。
Got it, big brother. Duel 1. Let's rock.
氷よ。ダメよ。お雪。お願い。危険だと思うの。
Positive. Slap. Duel 2. Let's rock.
お雪。氷よ。お雪。断木。氷よ。
Max.
やめなさい。流れを。さくらさん。氷よ。
Positive.
門倉さん。
Slap. Duel 1. Let's rock.
ためらわない。氷よ。氷よ。あ、もう一つ捉えた。いや。そこ滑りますよ。そこ。氷よ。
Slap. Duel 2. Let's rock.
ほらおゆきおとなしくそこ炎に届いた危ない
Slap. Positive bonus. Positive bonus.
信じて
He's got a newcomer.
迷わない
Positive bonus.
こういう
Positive bonus.
守るのそのために
Got a newcomer. Duel 1. Let's rock.
無事死無事キリッとしな無事緩んでるぜ
お願い
ちょっとみんなやるね
ほら気を抜くもう一つ捉えて届いたもう一つ捉えてお雪氷よ
無事いい
負けないすいません行きますこれなら分かっていただけますそこ滑ります
君は本気を出してやる
Slap. Duel 2. Let's rock.
こけてんなよ無事死よいさ上の空かちょっとみんな無事死無事緩んでるぜ無事死こけてんなよ平らにはいよし無事アギハおっと捉えたぜほらよ無事死無事はすい捉えたぜはいほらよ無事
まだつまらない氷よ広がる氷よそこ滑りますそこ氷よせーの門倉さん
これよ
ダメよ
First match.
お雪
よいしょっと
止めない
割り込むぜこっちだ
Slap. Duel 1. Let's rock.
よいしょっと
やめなさいお願いお願い氷よ 広がるネクロさあ骨が氷よそこ止めな
次は本気を出してやる
Duel 2. Let's rock.
これで滑ります捉えて氷よそこ
無事緩んでるぜおいよ無事シンほら無事緩んでるぜシンその無事ナギハよいしょおいよ無事リンちょっと緩んでるぜ無事シン
これなら分かっていただけますそこ滑りますやめなさいおゆき
はい無事緩んでるぜ派手にモテなぜ
Slap. Duel 3. Let's rock.
無事おっと
氷よ広がるネクロあ氷よ
よいしょ
負けない
無事
いいね
無事キリッとしなすいやよいしょ無事緩んでるぜ
おとなしく
やるね
そこ滑ります炎のネクロもう一つ炎のそこもう一つネクロ届いた氷よ広がるそこそこ滑りますネクロそこ氷よ広がるお雪
Slap. Positive bonus. Danger. We've got a newcomer. First Max.
My object starts with a story. Have you heard about that Howard Hughes, the eccentric billionaire?
I've heard of him,
You've
yeah.
heard of him? He comes up. You know, in the middle of the Cold War, he built this massive ship. Do you know this story?
Like a ship that floated.
The ship that floated.
No, I knew more about his airplanes.
Okay, it's called the Glomar Explorer.
Oh.
And he did this big announcement to the whole world. And he said that he was going to go out on the ocean and he was going to mine these worthless looking black rocks at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean.
For what? For iron, nickel,
for
gold,
whatever.
For whatever.
For whatever.
Okay.
Just about plausible enough to seem true.
Yeah.
It was actually this massive stunt that the CIA were doing. What he was actually doing. Do you know about this?
Wait, I remember this story vaguely. Let me guess. What he was actually doing was... No, I don't. Tell me.
He had nothing to do with it at all, really. He was just a cover. It wasn't his shit.
The CIA was doing something.
Yes, the CIA wanted to steal a sunken Soviet submarine.
For its technology?
Yeah, what they were doing on there. So they needed to send over this massive ship that was going to go down to the bottom of the ocean. But they needed this cover story. And they were like, Howard Hughes. And, you know, this whole, like, oh yeah, rocks at the bottom of the ocean, lol.
Yeah.
And it worked. It was this really great piece of theatre. This episode is brought to you by Cancer Research UK.
Here's something strange. Your DNA contains more ancient viral fragments than genes. The genes that build our cells make up only 2% of our DNA. And for years, that is what scientists focused on. They treated the rest, the ancient viruses and stuff, as junk.
But now we know that hidden majority, sometimes called the dark genome, influences how our biology works and how diseases like cancer behave.
It's a reminder that progress rarely comes as a single breakthrough. It builds gradually. Cancer Research UK plays a central role in that progress, supporting decades of research into over 200 types of cancer, work that's helped double survival in the UK over the past 50 years.
For more information about Cancer Research UK, their research, breakthroughs, and how you can support them, visit cancerresearchuk.org/the rest is science.
Describe bottom of the ocean. Like how deep?
Oh, I'm talking bottom.
Bottom.
Bottom of the ocean.
That's cool.
Okay. Now I have to tell you first, before I hand this to you, this is now, I think, one of my prized possessions, but I feel very guilty because somebody, I don't know who, sent this to me as a gift to my Cambridge office, okay, and they had a really lovely letter in there, and there was a map from exactly where it was recovered, from what part of the ocean, and I can't find the letter anywhere. I can only find this.
Do you remember if it was the Atlantic or the Pacific?
It was the Atlantic. It was the Atlantic.
Okay.
So anyway, whoever it was that sent me this, I'm really, really, really grateful. But this is what is known as a polymetallic nodule. It's in a little necklace thing, but you can pull it out if you want to. Okay.
Oh,
right.
cool.
I promise these are exciting. I promise.
Okay, so it's inside a pendant on a string necklace, and the rock is black. It's about the size of a die, and it is pitch black.
Pull it out.
I can pull it out? Mm-hmm. So the pendant that it's inside is a wire that's coiled up into a big helix egg shape.
Yeah.
And it's like a copperish brass wire. So I'm going to... How do I get it? I don't want to stretch this.
Yeah, go on, you can stretch it.
Okay, I'm going to stretch it like I'm breaking an egg open. And I'm going to get the rock out. This is a great way to hold the rock because it won't fall out in normal use, but it does come out. Polymetallic nodule?
Yes.
So it has many different metals in it.
Yes, and it feels really metallic.
I gotta smell it. I don't know. It's got almost a chalky texture.
It does. It does.
Can I lick it?
Yeah, go on. What's going to happen? Oh, no, wait. No, Jake.
It's really dry.
Is it?
It's like
I haven't
drier
tasted
than
it.
I would expect most rocks to be. I think it's a little porous. Is it volcanic?
No, it is not volcanic.
Look, it's leaving dust on my fingers.
Yeah, now I know.
I'm gonna clean my tongue.
Sorry.
Because what if there's probably lead in it?
Oh, God.
Hold on. Anyway, I did it for you all.
I hope there's not lead in it.
It's not very dense.
No.
Like, I'm making it sound like it's made out of polystyrene, but no, it's definitely a rock. I'm just going to do a quick little mouthwash.
I probably should have risk assessed the idea of you licking a polymetallic nodule before I suggested you do it.
Better me than like my child.
I agree. Okay, I'm sure you'll be fine. Okay.
I mean, surely the ocean washed it.
Surely the ocean washed it. Okay, so right, the thing about these rocks, okay, they have the most unreal history, present and future, right, as three separate entities. So the way that they're created, these rocks, I mean, why are you getting rocks at the bottom of the ocean? Surely it's all sand, right? It doesn't make any sense that you would have these rocks. But what happens is that a tiny bit of debris, right, and it's things like a shark tooth, or even longer ago, maybe a megalodon tooth, or a little bit of a meteorite, something like that, floats down in the ocean and then settles in the mud right at the bottom. And then they begin their life like this, but over millions and millions of years, I think you've got all of these underwater volcanoes. So they're spewing out this very sort of metallic, rich debris all across the place. And over millions of years, manganese, nickel, cobalt, they slowly come out of the seawater and end up bonding to this original seed, this original piece of debris. And this is, by the way, one of the slowest geological processes on the entire planet. They accumulate at about 1 millimeter every million years.
Wow.
Right, it's unbelievably slow. When you find them, they're roughly the size of a potato or a grapefruit, maybe.
Really?
And they're like these unbelievable pearls, you know, with this incredibly interesting center and then extremely rich surrounding. So the fact that they're so old, you know, you have to... That was probably, the original seed for that was probably around the time of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're talking about. These grapefruits that are sitting at the bottom of the ocean that have been there since the time of the dinosaurs. But because they have so much metal in them, No lead, thankfully, we hope.
Is that confirmed?
Let's check.
Just pretend to check and then tell me that it's fine. What is this process of rock formation called?
Okay, it's called hydrogenous precipitation. So the idea is that the top half of the nodule is kind of exposed to the seawater.
Yeah.
And then it just absorbs all of these dissolved metals as they float past.
And what, do they attract more? Oh, so it really is like a pearl forming in an oyster.
It really is.
Except the oyster is the entire ocean.
Exactly.
Wow.
So the other thing about these is that they essentially act as natural batteries because they've got these really tightly layered metallic isotopes.
Yeah.
They have this naturally occurring electrical charge in them. And when you get loads of them together, and you get sort of, because over the course of millions of years, you get them. When you have thousands of them that are clustered together, the combined voltage can actually be like a volt, 2 volts or so, which means that you can split seawater into hydrogen and oxygen.
Yeah.
And it oxygenates the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool.
Oh my gosh.
That's fun, isn't it?
You're welcome, fish.
You're welcome, fish. Enjoy. But the thing about them, that in terms of their future, is that all of the metals that are in here, which are extremely rare once you come up to the surface of the Earth, but you find them in this incredible concentration within these nodules, are exactly the same metals that you need to make, for example, electric cars, right? The batteries in electric cars. So there is this kind of paradox that's going on at the moment, which is that to make cars greener, maybe we should do this really quite environmentally damaging thing, which is going back.
Sorry, I thought you were going to say we should do this as an episode.
No.
Say that again.
No, maybe we should. Maybe
They're really damaging. I'm like, we should.
Well, I don't know. It goes back to Howard Hughes' idea. Maybe we should really do the Howard Hughes thing.
Well, yeah, especially if metals, and especially rare metals, are congregating together because it's easier for them to move through water. We're never going to find nodules that form in that way in dirt.
No.
So mining, especially rare earth minerals, is a very intensive process. But the ocean's already allowed time to collect them together.
Yeah, although I think it probably would be quite disruptive to marine life if we went down there and got them. But there's like a lot of them. I mean, the ocean can spare some.
The ocean, we can just borrow some.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll leave some trash down there in its place. They'll pull an Indiana Jones, like, and here's a bunch of straws.
Yeah, I sort of feel like I should lick it as well, so that at least if you die, I die as well.
I think it's one of those things that'll just slowly kill me, or it'll lead to faster cognitive decline in decades to come.
Look, you mess around with yellow cake, all right? This is licking a bit of rockers
I didn't
from the
lick
ocean.
the yellow cake. Okay.
Should we do some questions?
Let's do some questions, yeah. So this question comes from Mike. Mike asks, can we train ourselves to be ambidextrous? I learned to shoot a basketball with both hands, but I feel like my non-dominant hand, left, will never be as good as my dominant, right one. Well, you can. You can definitely train yourself to be ambidextrous. In fact, many left-handed people were forced to do this, and to this day still train themselves away from it. It takes time, but handedness is a pretty big mystery still. We have some evidence of handedness in non-human animals, but it's not nearly as strong as it is in humans. And so the origins of handedness are kind of unknown. About 10% of people are left-handed. Only about 1% of people are ambidextrous, like truly they can do fine and gross motor skills equally well with both hands. I think the less dominant hand gets a bad rap though, because maybe it's not good at certain fine motor skills, but it is a fantastic helper and follower. Like if you try to write on a sheet of paper with your non-dominant hand, which in my case is the left, not only does it have trouble forming the little letters, but my right hand has no idea what to do. I'm like, where do I put it? It's supposed to be holding the paper or moving it, and I can't do it. But my left hand instinctively just is like, yep, here's where I'm going to be to help out the dominant guy. And when it comes to throwing a ball, the left hand, in my case, again, the non-dominant hand does a lot of work in terms of balance. And I find that when I throw with my dominant hand, my left hand knows exactly where to be to balance everything out and give me really great leverage. When I throw with my left, my right arm is like, oh, hey, I'm in the way. I don't know how to work them together. So really, they're like this great team. It's like a little Abbott and Costello, a little Hall & Oates, a little Simon and Garfunkel, a little Peanut Butter and Jelly, a little... Okay, I ran out of famous pairs off the top of my head. But yeah, you can train yourself, and it's worth doing as a party trick. But otherwise, I don't know, it's fine to just have a dominant and a non-dominant.
I do wonder, though, whether it is better for your brain, because, of course, your brain is sort of cross-wired, right? Like the right-hand side of your brain controls the left-hand side of your body and vice versa. So I wonder about... I'm thinking about dementia here. I wonder whether if you train yourself to become ambidextrous, whether in general, the more that you do to support your brain to push it in directions that it doesn't feel comfortable in, the better that you can stave off dementia.
I wonder, it could be good for your brain health, because it's certainly a cognitive exercise of a unique kind. Could you train yourself to be the opposite of ambidextrous? Could you train yourself to be ambisinister? That's what it's called when you're not good with either of your hands.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a real thing. But yeah, sinister means left and dexterous meant right. So...
Is that a Google whack? Ambisinister?
I don't think so, but look it up. But yeah, sinister meaning left shows you historically how we have treated left-handed people.
It is. It's a real word.
It's a real... Would I lie?
I thought you...
On this podcast?
Sorry, I thought... yes, I thought you did.
Well, I mean, did you think that I made it up? Though it would technically be like a word for it? Yeah, but it is a real thing.
I did a program once on left-handedness, and I spoke to this neuroscientist called Sophie Scott. It's absolutely amazing. Like, really brilliant science communicator as well as a scientist. Anyway, she told me this incredible story about something called left neglect. Have you come across this?
No.
So it's this really strange phenomenon where somebody gets a brain injury to the right-hand side of their head, to the right hemisphere. And then they, as a result, just don't pay attention to essentially anything on the left-hand side.
In the visual field even.
Yeah, and it's not that they can't see it, because if they are told to look at it, then they see it, but they just don't pay attention to it. So, for example, you get people who have left neglect shaving half of their face, eating half a plate of food, not noticing it. I have a feeling that Dickens had this actually, or there was some famous writer who had it and then talks about just not noticing that lampposts are sort of appearing on the left-hand side. Anyway, Sophie was telling me about this study they were doing in hospitals in Manchester, where they were following doctors who had been on extremely long shifts. Okay, so I'm talking about serious sleep deprivation. Under these conditions, you also see signs of left neglect in these doctors, but only if they are right-handed.
Oh, what if they're left-handed?
So you don't see it. You see sometimes flickers of right neglect, but it's way more transient.
Oh, strange.
And I think there's some idea that you have this sort of resistance to these severe spatial biases because your attention network is better distributed across the whole of your brain rather than just on one side. But it's like, active areas of research.
Well, you got to give those researchers a hand.
Which one?
But which one? We should also look more into the origin of handedness, because until that question from Mike, I thought we knew what caused it and what the advantages were, and I thought that it was widespread in the animal kingdom. But one thing is, it's hard to find the origin, because although we have pretty good evidence that Neanderthals exhibited handedness, that'll come from things like how did they sharpen tools and how did they hold something down while they worked on it. There's a way to figure it out. I know that with early humans, we find a lot of handprints, right? Where someone put their hand on a rock and then they sprayed the pigment on it to leave a negative impression of the hand. That almost all of those are left hands, which implies perhaps that more of them were right-handed because they were using the right hand to apply the pigment. But when you want to look at really ancient prehistoric people, the evidence is very conflicting. So we don't know when distinct human-handedness emerged as we have it today, or why.
We can promise you an episode on that's coming up at some point in the future. Here's a question from Aisha. Do taller animals get struck by lightning more often? If so, I guess it's dangerous to be a giraffe.
Do you know?
I do know.
What's the answer?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yes, but it's not the worst thing that can happen.
Oh.
So it is true. It is true that giraffes do get hit more often because they are sort of poking out of the savannah quite a lot more, which is a little bit tragic. There are also actual documented cases of giraffes getting hit by direct strikes during heavy thunderstorms. Actually, I think that there was in 2020. There was an observational study, people out in South Africa, watching what's going on, and 2 giraffes were killed by a single bolt. I think they were standing quite close to each other.
Oh no.
So yes, it is more dangerous to be a giraffe, essentially.
Makes sense.
It is, but it's not the most dangerous thing when it comes to lightning, because actually a direct hit from lightning from the sky is the least common way that electricity can kill large animals. What is way more dangerous is because it's much more likely to hit the ground, and then you have this millions of volts of electricity that are rippling outwards through the soil. And here's the thing, if you're an animal who is on 4 legs, 2 of your legs are going to be further away from the site than the other 2, which means that there is going to be a differential between those 2 points. This is called a step voltage. It's totally deadly for 4-legged animals. You could maybe get really lucky where you were, standing in a way that was perfectly parallel with the rings as they emerged. But at any other angle, there's going to be this difference between your front and back
current
legs.
will pass through its body.
Yeah, giraffes are more prone to this as well because obviously they're very big animals.
Yeah.
Their front and back legs are really far apart. But this ground current effect, it was this incredible morbid mystery that sometimes you would see news reports of, or in history more generally, you would see, I don't know, like an entire herd of reindeer or like dozens of cows that are just instantly killed in a single storm. And it could just take out an entire herd at the same time.
And it was probably because lightning hit
The ground.
And then a difference in charge between their feet across space got them all.
This little electrical bridge, basically, that their bodies were the shortest path between the 2.
So if I'm stuck in a field during a lightning storm, should I keep my feet together?
Yes, and tuck
stand
down.
on one leg.
Or get in a car. I think that's-
If I had a car, then I consider myself not stuck in a field.
or a giraffe. Yeah.
I wouldn't get in a giraffe. We've got a lot of books from this country for my daughter where the rhymes don't work in my accent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's one about like put a scarf on a giraffe. And I'm like, Marnie, that's my wife. You have to read this one. And she's like, oh, put the scarf on the giraffe. And I'm like, okay, that sounds ridiculous, but it rhymes now.
Excuse me, it sounds sophisticated.
It sounds sophisticated and sexy, actually. She keeps saying that the New Zealand accent was voted the sexiest accent. I'm like, that must be a comedian's joke because, just kidding, I think it's obviously true.
Marnie, he listens to this podcast.
Yeah.
I heard it was the Irish accent.
Are you serious?
Should we have a look?
It should be.
Do you reckon they have a new vote every
British,
year?
Italian, French.
Not British, come on.
Yeah, well, come on, like a what was her name? Glamour Spice?
Glamour
Victoria Beckham. Who?
Spice. Posh Spice.
Posh Spice.
Sorry, are you
Elizabeth
joking?
Hurley?
She's got like an Essex accent.
I guess I haven't listened to her speak,
Oh, maybe that's why you think she sounds great.
but I would imagine Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah,
That her accent it's sophisticated, right? Like,
that's very RP, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when people say English accent, I just imagine people from my hometown who are like, "Well, shut up, yeah, oh my god." I don't think that's sexy at all. But I imagine Italian people are the same. This question is from Paolo. I study statistics in Padua, Italy, which is in the middle of Pianura Padana, a region characterized by coldish, foggy winter days. I come from a city in the Alps that gets way colder than Padua, and whenever I tell my mum it was cold in Padua, she blames it on the dampness in the air, swearing that to her, a humid cold feels colder than dry cold, even when fully clothed. So, is a 10 degrees Celsius, 80% humidity day colder than a 0 degrees, 50% day?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's colder because the temperature's lower, but it will feel different. The humidity does make a difference. Humidity makes a hot day feel hotter, and a cold day feel colder because water is a much better conductor of heat. So if it's cold outside and the air is cold but really dry, you might not feel as bad because you're not losing heat as efficiently into the air. But if that air is the same temperature but much more humid, then you can have that heat taken away from you much more quickly. I remember experiencing, I think in like North Dakota, a night where it wasn't even that cold. It was like 20 Fahrenheit. It was below freezing, but it felt painfully cold. And I'm like, it's been this cold in Kansas before. And someone was like, the humidity is so high. But do you have anything else to say about this? Is that true?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think one of the additional weird things here, I think this strange biological quirk that I can never get my head over is that humans actually can't sense wetness, right? We don't have like a wetness sensor. The only way that we can tell that something feels cold is by the temperature differential to what we were expecting. I mean, you get this if you put, Veritasium did something on this recently.
Yeah.
You put your hand in a glove and into a glass of water and it feels like it's
feels wet. Yeah, I saw that too. And I've noticed that too. Like I will often wear gloves when I'm in the kitchen and then I'll wash the gloves and I'm like, hey, my hands got all wet. And I'm like, oh no, they didn't. But yeah, it's just that temperature difference. So you can tell the humidity of the air because of, how it's interacting with your skin and temperature change, and also how it interacts inside your body with temperature change in your lungs. So,
but you're not actually physically feeling the wetness.
Funny enough too, humid air, do you think that it's more or less dense than dry air?
I would guess more.
It's less.
No.
Yeah, because water molecules, water vapor, which is what is in air that makes it humid, is just H2O. So it's 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen. That's it. And what is it replacing? It's replacing oxygen, which is 2 oxygen atoms, or carbon dioxide, which is carbon and 2 oxygen, or it's replacing nitrogen, which exists as N2. So the water vapor is replacing molecules that are much heavier. So humid air is a lot less dense. Even though it feels like oppressively dense, it's not. And so there actually was a case where a baseball team got in trouble because they had an indoor baseball stadium, and whenever their opponents came up to bat, they would turn on the air conditioning to make the air thicker so that balls wouldn't go as far.
Wow.
Yeah. And when they were up to bat, they would let the natural humidity come back in so that the air became thinner and balls were slowed down less.
That's incredible.
And they were told to stop.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
But that's
cheating.
really counterintuitive because humid air, you go down to like the Gulf Coast and you're just like, oh, it's so thick. The air is thick and it feels heavy, but it's actually much less dense.
Well, actually, if I'd pause to think about it for longer, of course humid air has to be lighter because otherwise clouds wouldn't work. Clouds wouldn't be up there, they'd be down there.
I guess so. Well, if they come down, also the pressure increases and the temperature goes up. So the water, I'm sure you're right.
Yeah,
I don't know enough
if clouds were
about
really
meteorology.
heavy and dense, then they'd be below.
But clouds aren't water vapor. Clouds are drops of liquid water that are visible.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I take it.
Water vapor is completely invisible. But once it condenses into droplets of water that float because they're so small, then you've got a cloud.
Okay, all right, I take it back.
It's kind of like a pedantic thing I get into as well.
Clouds can stay where they are.
Like when you've got your kettle on and you see the steam coming out, no, you don't. Because steam is water vapor, which is invisible. What you're seeing is water vapor, water in a gas form that has condensed into liquid droplets. And those are what you see as the white, smoky steam. But that's not steam, that's just hot drops of liquid water.
This is why we love you, Michael, because there are very few other people on Earth who would be like, no, you're not seeing steam.
You can't see steam.
You can't see steam. Okay, just to round off this episode, I've looked up what has been voted the sexiest accent.
Okay, tell me.
Okay,
Wait, let me guess.
Go on.
Tell me 2 and 3.
Okay.
Tell me third place, second place. I'll tell you first.
They change around a little bit depending on who's asking.
I'm sure.
But the top 4, we got all of the top 4.
Okay, so the top 4 are French, Italian.
Not French, actually. Sorry.
Oh,
Get
what
rid
are the
of them.
top 4?
Italian, British, Irish, Kiwi.
Number 1?
Yeah,
So my wife is right.
yeah. In a heavily debated 2019 poll by Big Seven Travel, it took first place out of 50 accents. They described the New Zealand accent as outrageously charming, allowing it to beat out South African accent and the Irish accent. Yeah.
I stand corrected. My wife is right.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Your marriage can go on happily.
I'm trying to do an impression of a New Zealand accent, but it's going to be so offensive and wrong.
Go on, do it anyway.
I just think it's like, this is my New Zealand accent. Oh, would you like a beer? Oh. Is that good?
I'm not sure what you were saying.
Oh, go on the dick. Like that. That's
go on the dick.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds better. I don't know why I make it so high pitched.
I enjoyed it so much more that yours was high pitched.
I'm gonna try like lower. Oh, come out on the dick, go be a sweet ass. That was good.
You
that
know
was
what?
Straight out of
I think
New
that was
Zealand.
undeniably sexy.
How do they say hello? Hello, I'm from the South Island, eh? That was good.
I felt like I was there. That was
And the North Island is more like, hey, a sweet ass. Oh, give me some Milo.
yeah, it is a wonder that you didn't choose acting as your career.
Isn't it?
It absolutely is. I think
I think that if you've been offended today, let us know. You can email us at therestiscience@goalhanger.com.
send us in your questions, your ideas, things you want us to answer, and any medical advice for somebody who's consumed a small amount of polymetallic nodules.
Sea lead. Nodules. Goodness me.
See you next time. Welcome to The Rest of Science. I'm Hannah Fry.
And I'm Michael Stevens. Today, I want to tell you about something I've discovered.
Go on.
A new way to make twins.
Is it ethical?
Oh, it's ethical. It's not easy.
Okay.
There's two ways to make twins.
Yeah.
And the first way is the normal way. You and your partner just really hope that zygote splits into two babies.
Genetically identical.
Genetically identical individuals. The second way is for you and your partner to have about 70 trillion children.
Okay. That sounds like quite a lot of work.
It's not that bad. All it requires is birthing 70,000 children a second.
What, for your entire fertile life?
Well, I mean, for your entire fertile life. Not mine, my partner's, luckily.
You're not going to get much else done.
No, but wouldn't it be cool?
I think for all of us went in a different direction than we were expecting.
Well, there's two kinds of twins. There's the fraternal twin, which is also called the dizygotic twin. And what happens there is that two zygotes form. What's a zygote? When the sperm and the egg mix, they make a zygote. That's the very first stage, and it contains the unique genetic sequence for an individual. Now, if two eggs happen to get fertilized by two different sperm, you get two zygotes, dizygotic, and they're both in the womb, and they both become kids who have like the same birthday, but are like siblings to each other genetically.
Yeah.
However,
you just so happen to be sharing a womb.
You just so happen to be sharing a womb with no view. Well, limited view.
Well, you can see each other.
You can see each other. That's kind of cute. But if one zygote forms, okay, one genetic sequence for one individual, and then that zygote splits into two, you now have two of the same individual that gestate and get born and have the same DNA, more or less. Of course, over time through epigenetics, their DNA will diverge. But that's what we call monozygotic twins, and they are identical twins.
Mono meaning one
Mono
zygote.
meaning one. But what I'm interested in is a kind of twin that I invented that I call not dizygotic, not monozygotic, but doppelzygotic.
This episode is brought to you by Cancer Research UK.
Here's something strange. Your DNA contains more ancient viral fragments than genes. The genes that build our cells make up only 2% of our DNA. And for years, that is what scientists focused on. They treated the rest, the ancient viruses and stuff, as junk.
But now we know that that hidden majority, sometimes called the dark genome, influences how our biology works and how diseases like cancer behave.
It's a reminder that progress rarely comes as a single breakthrough. It builds gradually. Cancer Research UK plays a central role in that progress, supporting decades of research into over 200 types of cancer, work that's helped double survival in the UK over the past 50 years.
For more information about Cancer Research UK, their research breakthroughs, and how you can support them, visit cancerresearchuk.org/the rest is science. Doppels, as in like doppelganger.
We've doubled a zygote. So we have two zygotes that are identical, but not because one split at the same time into two, but because at two different times the same zygote randomly happened to be made.
So hold on, where did you get this 70 trillion number from? Is it because you take two parents, right, mother, father, and the number of different combinations of ways that you can
More or
combine their
less.
genes?
Yes. We don't know enough about genetic science and reproduction to give really concrete numbers, so 70 trillion is within a degree of magnitude or so one way or the other. What I'm getting at is how many different genetic variations can two parents make?
Because they have to come from the same individual two parents.
That's right. But when you have a kid with someone else, exactly which half they get from the mom and the dad is up to chance, and how the chromosomes change during that conception process is up to chance. But there are only so many variations, and there are only so many that are viable. There are only so many combinations that will turn into a kid, and there are only so many that will turn into a human. Like, some of these variations might be like a different species, for all we know. But 70 trillion is a pretty good estimate based on my important research on Reddit for how many viable, unique progeny two people could have.
I wonder how many siblings there have ever been, you know? Like, how close are we to 70 trillion?
Not close at all.
Nowhere near.
There have only been about 110 billion humans to have ever been born in the history of our species. But we can also grab onto the birthday problem. You don't actually need to have 70 trillion kids. In order to get a specific possible kid, you'll have to try like 70 trillion times.
Yeah.
But to get kids such that you can find a pair that match, you only need to have about 10 million kids.
Oh, hang on. Suddenly this sounds achievable.
Suddenly it's looking like it's gonna happen. 10 million children. The chance that there will be a pair that have the same genome is about 50%. So it's like a coin flip.
Now, okay, you can't compare that 10 million number to 110 billion, right?
No, because this is 10 million children
From
the
the
same
same parents.
Right.
But even so, actually, suddenly the chances of two siblings being essentially at least very, very, very close, if not completely identical, despite not having come from a single zygote, I mean, it's starting to look quite likely.
It's... But here's the thing that makes it even more complicated. I'm talking about people sharing their genome. But really, when it comes to looking at them, it's the phenotype that makes them unique. It's the expression, the behavior, the things that we can observe. And someone can have a very different genome than someone else, and yet their nose, their eyes, their hair, all that stuff can be really similar. And that's why siblings so often look alike, even though we can genetically tell them apart.
I can open my sister's Face ID on her phone.
Are you serious?
She finds it extremely annoying, by the way. Not that I'm opening her phone all the time, just that she shares my face.
I would not confuse you two, though.
No, you wouldn't confuse us, but in
Face
like
ID
our
is.
mannerisms and on Face ID, yeah, Face ID. Because Face ID is a lot of it is about your orbital bone.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because it's a structure that doesn't change.
My sister, I don't think she looks anything like me, but I think our mannerisms, like you said, is very similar. My daughter picks that up. She only wants me or my sister to read her bedtime stories because she says that we deliver them in the same way.
Amazing.
I guess so.
Or is it?
Or is it, says my sister and me. But the point I'm getting at here is that randomly conceiving a child who is genetically identical to a child you've already had, not impossible, in principle, in theory, but practically, it's never going to happen. Okay? We all share DNA for the most part because a lot of the genes that we have do the same thing in all of us, and they don't cause a noticeable difference. We've heard this before that like 99.9% of our DNA is the same amongst every human, but it's that
just the marginal difference.
it's that 0.1% that really codes for the things that make me recognizably a unique individual. I can pass some of that to my children, and some of that might appear in my grandchildren, but it decreases very quickly. And it's not an amount that just keeps getting cut in half and therefore it never becomes zero. My grandkids aren't going to have a quarter of my DNA. Even though mathematically you could easily kind of hand wave into that, grandchildren have anywhere from 23 to 27% of their grandparents, each grandparent's DNA.
And this is because even though you get 50-50 of your mother and your father, there's nothing saying which 50% of your mother and father you're getting.
Exactly.
So you're not definitely getting 25% of their mother and their father.
Exactly. You're getting somewhere between 23 and 27%. The half you get from your mom could be like a little weighted towards her dad and less her mom. For example, your great-grandchildren will only have between 9 and 14% of what makes you unique. By 7 generations, your 7 great-great-great-great-grandchild is statistically no more like you are right now than a stranger on the street.
No, I wish. How many generations did you say?
7.
Really?
By 7. After 7 generations, we reach a point where it's possible for your progeny to have absolutely none of your personal genetic variation.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I've thought this quite a few times actually about ancestors, right? So if you go 7 generations back, because I've done some work in the past where I've tried to find their names and try to find out where they're from and all of this kind of thing. Let's think 7 generations back, so we're talking about 1700s or so, maybe a little bit earlier.
I guess it'd be like almost 200 plus years ago.
Yeah, okay. I don't feel like I have an emotional connection to those people. You know, like I can hear about their story, but I don't feel emotionally connected to their plight in the same way as I do, you know, when I look back to sort of my great-grandparents, for instance. But now what you're saying is, I mean, that's fine, because I don't even have a sort of genetic connection to them either.
I mean, you might, but it's going to be small, but it could very potentially be 0. 7 generations is the first distance, the closest distance at which we can expect 0% of the personal genetic variation to have persisted. But if you go back 11 generations, 70% of your ancestors from 11 generations ago are not in you at all. So when you think about your legacy being about your genes passing, it's a temporary extension of your life, and it's a very quickly shrinking one.
This does make sense though as well, because I think if you imagine, okay, you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and so on and so on and so on, and that number is essentially doubling every generation you go back. What that means is, if you sort of turn that upside down, there comes a point where the number of potential ancestors you have is more than the number of people who are alive, and thus there was some crossover.
Of course, yeah.
And if you do this calculation, you can work out that there's a point where you go back far enough in history where there are some people who are essentially everyone alive in modern Britain, for instance, is descended from that person, Charlemagne being one example, right? But not just because Charlemagne's special, everybody who was around at that time, there's so much folding over and overlapping of our ancestors that essentially there's an inevitability that you're related to everybody who was around at that point. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense then, because otherwise we just all look the same, right? If if Charlemagne's DNA really persisted for a much longer time, then we would all look like Charlemagne.
Yeah, that's right. And there would be literally doppelzygotic twins.
Everywhere.
But that doesn't happen. And so the more you think about it, the more it feels like your genetic sequence is really arguably very much yours. And if anyone randomly had it,
found a way to sort of profit off it.
Just by chance.
Right.
The chromosomes all contained, and it happened to be the exact same sequence of base pairs that you had. Wouldn't be impossible. It could happen. It could happen from some parents that aren't even my parents, but probably not on this planet. The planet couldn't even support the amount of people required for us to feel like this would happen. But if we colonized other planets and we found a way for the species to last for trillions of years, it could happen. So, something to look forward to.
That feels like a quite far-fetched reason to not say that it's not yours. You know what I mean? Like, as a sort of philosophical discussion,
I know.
I'm comfortable with accepting that that's not going to happen.
So, to what extent do we own our genetic sequence? If it is so uniquely mine, and it's so unlikely to naturally happen again, what kind of claim do I have to own it?
But it belongs to you. Surely this is a one and done. This is an open shut case, Michael.
It seems that way. However, it's theoretically possible that another human could be born with my exact sequence, and I clearly wouldn't have any right to say, hey, I had that first.
I've got the
Give
patent.
it back.
I mean, the twin thing, you're right though, you do get natural twins, and you can't have one twin that owns it more than the other.
Yeah, that's right. And again, twins don't share their DNA exactly. This is like a fun little party thing to bring up if you want to be pedantic, because of mutations that happen epigenetically through life. They're not going to be exactly identical. Also, they have different fingerprints. We've talked about this before. Fingerprints are not designed by your DNA. They're not coded by a gene. They just form randomly in the womb.
It's a process.
So you can tell twins apart by their fingerprints. Twins make for a really interesting case because which twin can claim that they own the genome? When would this even come up legally? Like if one set of a twin was like, hey, I want to sell the personally unique part of my genome for this company to create digital versions or even real flesh and blood versions like clones of me, would the other twin be like, but I don't want that, and I'm the same in appearance in many ways. People are going to confuse me with all these like clones that you're allowing to have made. I feel like courts would have a pretty easy time with that one.
What, saying no, you're not allowed to?
I think veto power would be given. But what can they do with, let's start with just cells. What can they do with my cells? We've already talked about body parts. People can do a lot with my body parts after I'm dead. But what about while I'm alive? They don't take a body part, they just take some cells from me.
What could they do with it?
What could they do with it?
Would they still belong to you?
Would they still belong to me?
This has already happened though, right? There is a really big famous story about this, Henrietta Lacks. It's quite a dark story in a lot of ways. I mean, not in a lot of ways. In almost
in
every
the way.
In the
Yeah.
way. This is the 1950s, and up until this point in history, people had tried to grow human cells in a lab and really struggled with doing so. They would die after a couple of days. And there was this one surgeon. This is at Johns Hopkins Hospital in America, where unusually they would treat black patients, poor black patients in particular, but they did so in these really segregated wards. I mean, as you say, in the way, this is a really dark story. And the unspoken, really unethical rule in all of this was that these patients were essentially paying for their free medical care by unknowingly acting as clinical research patients, right?
Yeah.
As subjects, effectively. So this doctor, Richard Talindi, he's called, he was trying to understand the causes of cervical cancer. And so he ordered that every patient who came into the hospital and was treated for cervical cancer, he would take a sample from their bodies and would send it off to his lab assistant, who would then try and either experiment on the cells or try and get them to grow. So this is 1951. There was a young mother. She was called Henrietta Lacks, a poor black woman from America. And she had a very aggressive form of cervical cancer. And so during her treatment, when they sort of cut her open and tried to remove the tumour, as was standard under this doctor's care, they took this about a dime-sized piece of tissue and they sent it off to the lab to
From her cervix.
From her cervix, but specifically from the cancerous part of her cervix.
Okay.
What was really strange when they took it to the lab was that whereas normally these cells would, die after 24 hours, 48 hours, something like that, there was something about Henrietta's cells that meant that they actually just kept replicating. They just kept replicating and kept replicating and kept replicating. It didn't matter how many generations of replication they would go through, they were essentially immortal. Henrietta's cancer cells were essentially immortal.
Immortal outside of her body.
Outside of
in
her
the
body.
hospital.
Yeah. Now, really tragically, Henrietta died of this cancer really soon after all of this happened. But her cells remained in the laboratory, and the scientists there really understood how strange and unusual this thing was. Initially, they were interested in this from a sort of really scientific perspective, like what is it about these cells that makes them so unusual? And it turns out that it all comes down to something called telomeres. So the way that I've had this described, my friend Adam Rutherford, who's a geneticist, is really good on this stuff. And he described telomeres as, you know, when you have a shoelace, the very end of a shoelace that sort of caps it and stops it from fraying. This is like the idea of telomeres. That every single time that you have your cells dividing, that degrades ever so slightly. Right? You get your there's a limit to how short the shoelace can get, right, before the cells just end up dying. And what had happened in this, I mean, it really was a sort of 1 in a billion fluke chance that the way that the cancer had interacted with Henrietta Lacks' cells meant that she had the viral DNA, human papillomavirus, which is the thing that causes cervical cancer in most of her, had sort of invaded her own DNA next to this incredibly sensitive point along the DNA chain. And so next to the bit that essentially acts as the master growth switch for regular cell division and replication. So it altered her DNA in a way that meant that it could carry on forever, that it would end up being immortal. So, okay, initially it's like this scientific interest, but very soon they realised that if they have these immortal cells, there is profit to be made from this. And so a company was started which essentially sold Henrietta Lacks' cells.
Like literally a portion of the culture.
Literally a portion of her cells. Her name was stripped from it. It's now called HeLa. I don't know whether you say it like that, but it's spelled HeLa.
Yeah.
And this stuff is all over the world.
Right. And it wasn't sold as a curiosity. It was sold to other researchers, to universities to also learn from and study.
And to pharmaceutical companies, particularly. Because the thing about this is that so many drugs have been tested on her cells. Her cells have been sold and sold and sold and sold again. I mean, we're really talking probably billions of dollars of profit have been made purely from the kind of unusualness of her cells.
Her family must have made a killing.
How nice it would be if that were the case. Her family didn't even know that this had happened until many years later, when researchers started calling up and asking for additional blood tests just to work out what was going on with the body. It's estimated that scientists since 1951 have grown 50 million metric tons of her biological material in laboratories around the world.
My gosh. So we keep calling them her cells. If these are her cells, they're part of her, then at this point, her existence has mainly been as these cells.
Yeah, I mean, her actual existence as a human body is sort of a statistical anomaly.
As a continuous human that can like drive a car and like eat breakfast, that was a blip of her existence.
Right.
She is immortal in the form of these tons and tons and tons of ever-growing cells of hers, whose genetic sequence is basically hers, with the difference, of course, that they don't die.
Right. Exactly. But the genetic sequence is exactly hers. Now, I need to tell you, right, that the difference that her cells have made to the world is, you can't understate this. You know, the polio vaccine was tested on her cells. The COVID-19 vaccine was tested on her cells. Wow. You know, her cells have been used in CRISPR gene editing, in sickle cell anemia. I mean, I don't think this is an overstatement to say this, but pretty much every major advance that has happened with genetics and with this sort of type of biology has in somewhere along the line had Henrietta Lacks' cells to thank. But yeah, as you say, the family just completely cut out of this altogether.
So in so many ways, she is a hero.
Totally.
And our health and well-being has been because of her, and yet she didn't know any of this was happening. She had no consent in the matter, no knowledge it was even happening, until later her family finds out.
Well, because this is the thing. She's given this incredible gift to the world without knowing it. I mean, it was taken from her.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, her family were unable to pay for health insurance, you know? Like, all of us, all of our health has increased thanks to her cells, but her own family were left unable to pay for health insurance. So yeah, this big court case. There's actually been another couple that have gone through just this year with different pharmaceutical companies. No one knows they settled for an undisclosed amount.
Okay.
But the family, when they initially sued, they sued for all of the net profits that were gained directly by selling her cells. I mean, who knows what they actually got in the end. The law came down very firmly on the family side, that actually the ownership of that intellectual property, I mean, I'm not sure how to even really describe it, that sort of the property side of her cells belonged to her family.
And that, I love trying to figure out what word to use, because it's her cells are uniquely hers because they have the same genome in them. But I guess it's not intellectual property. She didn't think it up. In a way, I would say it's almost like abandoned property. Like when you're born, you have been given this whole new kind of genome, and slowly your consciousness matures and you're like, oh, hey, look, I found this and it's mine, finders keepers. So, she, I think, should have that right to herself. Well, her property was then taken against her knowledge and without her knowledge, and then used. Now, the family got a settlement from at least one, maybe more companies. But has the court actually decided, or has any legislation come down to help us with future cases?
I don't know if it has, because the other thing on the flip side of this is, we did the episode last week that was about whether you still own something that was a part of your body after you died. And the answer was no. I mean, it was a resounding no. It's your skeleton. It can be bought and sold and pushed around and posed in funny poses, and someone could put a hat on it and drink out of it if they want to. And so why is this different? Because these cells, look, I think that her and her family were treated appallingly. It's really clear. But I think you could also say, well, the cells never actually belonged to her body. And even if they did, well, then doesn't the same thing apply about skeletons? I guess perhaps the difference is that it's the information within the cells, right?
Well, I know that in 1990, there was a big California Supreme Court case, Moore versus the Regents of the University of California, where a guy who back in the late 70s had a form of cancer, had his spleen removed. And then without his knowledge, cells from that spleen were also cultured, and then this whole cell line began, and it was sold to other universities to do tests and studies on. And I think a lot of really important medical knowledge came from it.
Similar in a lot of ways.
Very similar. But in this case, what happened is in 1990, he sued the university for not telling him exactly what they were going to be doing with his cells, and then for profiting off of them. He went to court, and the first case was decided that, like, no, nothing happened here wrong. Like, they have the right to do this.
Right.
He appealed it. The appeals court was like, oh my gosh, no, you're totally in the right. They went on his side, and they argued that he deserved to know, first of all, that all this was happening and should be paid. The California Supreme Court took it on, and they said, no, these cells are the property of the university, and you don't deserve anything from it. One of the reasons they gave is that if we decide otherwise, then medical innovation gets slowed down.
Right.
Because now, researchers can't work on a cell line without having to constantly work with and do everything at the direction of the person the cells came from.
Right, because you have to work on human cells in a petri dish.
Yeah.
And those human cells, you can't just manufacture them out of nowhere. They have to come from a human. Right, and if you are continually asking for permission from the person who gave them, I can see that argument.
Yes, I think part of it was the idea that, like, yes, the cells that are in your body right now, they're totally yours. But if you consent to having some of them removed, in Moore's case, it was his spleen, in order to prolong his life. And that did help him, by the way. Like, his cancer went into remission because they removed the spleen. It was a white blood cell cancer, and they're stored in the spleen. I'm not a doctor, but blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm not going to be removing spleens from anyone who asks. But But he consented to that surgery, and then in the process of removing cells, and I don't know if culturing's the right word, but in creating this cell line, a new thing was invented as far as the California Supreme Court was concerned, and that new thing did not belong to the original human whose genome and life was responsible for its existence at first.
Is that where things stand now, then?
Well, I mean, that was in the
90s.
1990s.
But this must be because I know that the Henrietta Lacks settlements are just, fascinating to legal scholars.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right that the law says, hey, it's not yours, no big deal. But if you're a pharmaceutical company, and this is dodgy dealings.
Well, I think in the case of Henrietta Lacks and in the case of Moore, there wasn't enough information given to the patients about what exactly they were signing away. Today, I think a lot of that is told to people because we use cell lines, especially from fetuses, a lot. And we test different medications on them. And so the fact that it's definitely happening today more than ever means that it probably has fallen on the side of the university can own it. Other people can own your cells, even long after you've died, and while you're alive, so long as you've given them permission to.
What about your DNA, though?
Yeah. Can they clone you?
Right, if they have your DNA sequence, can that be owned without you?
That's still very much unexplored. So while I could certainly donate some cells to a research hospital and tell them, hey, do whatever you want with these for as long as you want.
Pose them with a silly hat.
Well, yeah, put silly hats on them, insult them, whatever. And in some ways, I might think that that's really worth it. If this is going to really help medicine advance, then I'm all for it. But at a certain point, they could start to say, hey, technology's advancing. We can take some of this DNA and we can literally create a zygote that matches Michael's genome. Plant that in a womb, boom, we got a new Michael. And would I be okay
Little
with
baby
that?
Vsauce.
A little baby Vsauce.
Would you be okay with that?
I think that I would not be so okay with it for two reasons. One is the selfish right to publicity that I want to have. I want to be in control of myself and my personality, my image, and
Michael, I think it'd be pretty good publicity to have a mini you. Like a literal mini. I think that's pretty good
But
publicity.
that brings me to the second problem I have with it, which is that the mini-me deserves their own life.
Yeah.
They would live their whole life as, whoa, you're just like Michael. Hey, do some of his catchphrases. No, that wouldn't be fair to them.
Raise your eyebrow.
Yeah, can you raise your... Oh, he can't raise his eyebrows yet. Whoa, whoa. And then the person's like, why do I have to live up to this thing? Why can't I be an individual?
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't know if the paperwork that's signed by people who donate cells even includes the possibility of future things like cloning. It might circumscribe what can be done with the cells actually quite finely to not include cloning. But when it comes to cloning, I looked into the legality of it. And there's two different types of cloning. One is therapeutic cloning, where I clone someone's cells in order to make them, new tissue or a new organ for transplant. And that is legal in the UK. It's legal in much of the United States. There are parts of the US where it's illegal, but it's very different country by country. Reproductive cloning is a whole different measure. This is where you don't just create tissue that matches. This is where you obviously create a person who can be born and is now a baby with the same genome as someone else. So I guess this is a third way of cloning.
Yeah.
This by the way is the doppelzygotic twin that I was joking about earlier. Not created by chance and a lot of attempts, but through science. And cloning for reproductive purposes is actually surprisingly not illegal everywhere. It's illegal here. In the United States, it depends what state you live in.
Really? What,
And-
human cloning?
Human cloning.
No.
Yeah. So as it turns out, many states have made it illegal, but most states don't have a statute one way or the other. They just haven't decided it. Idaho has no law against it, but they do have a law saying that if you are a healthcare worker, you can, due to your own conscience, not be forced to participate in human cloning should it happen. If it happens, you can't lose your job because you don't want to be a part of it. Louisiana made human cloning illegal, but it recently expired that prohibition. So legally, you can go clone humans in Louisiana.
No one's actually done this, though, have they?
Well, no one's done this for reproductive. No one's done reproductive cloning.
Yeah.
As far as we know, right? You can imagine that some scientists, where we're not looking, are like, hey guys, like we created this zygote out of Hannah's DNA. And we're going to put it into a mother, and it's going to be born, and it will be a doppelzygotic twin. It will be identical genetically to Hannah Fry, though, of course, it's a newborn baby.
I think this is one of the things that is so difficult when it comes to creating legislation for future scientific advances. I mean, cloning has felt like science fiction for a really long time, right? People have written stories about this idea. But actually now, especially with things like, gene editing, and there was a really big news story last year, I think, of where you could create a new baby using 3 parents, essentially, combining the genes of 3 different parents. We are really at the stage where you can technically do this, You can technically do this. But how are you supposed to create legislation to carve off every potential future scientific advance before it even actually happens?
I don't think you should, because you don't really know exactly what the context will be for future scientific applications. I think you just have to kind of deal with it as it happens. But that means there will always be this vanguard of a few people who are stuck in the middle. We don't have laws yet, but we need them, and it's going to be my court case that decides the precedent. Interestingly, reproductive cloning, here's where it is not prohibited. Besides the U.S. states I mentioned, it's allowed in Iran, Thailand, Turkey, Uruguay, Ukraine, and New Zealand.
Okay, well, of that list, 2 of them, Donald Trump's invaded. So maybe we found a secret reason.
Is that what's going on? J.D. Vance wants so many more mini versions of themselves. Or you think
a J.D. Vance army. We promised we would not be topical in this show.
We promised we wouldn't be topical, and yet here we are talking about the most accurate and likely current event, which is J.D. Vance.
What?
Creating J.D. Vance 2, 3, 4, 5.
Up to 70 trillion.
It's really surprising that human cloning isn't as illegal as I thought it was. I just think that it hasn't come up enough that anyone's really ready to say, yep, we're going to pass legislation on this. I guess whether or not there are laws against human cloning, there are already laws about who owns genetic sequences. So you might say, hey, it's not against the law for our company to clone a human. It's like, technically, yeah, that's true, but what human are you going to clone? Because, as decided by the Supreme Court in 2013, in a case called the Association for Molecular Pathology versus Myriad Genetics, human genes and DNA sequences cannot be patented. They are products of nature, not inventions.
Okay.
Prior to that court case, a company, a biotech company, could literally patent a gene that they had found in nature that's in all of our bodies.
Really?
The reason was to advance scientific progress.
What? So you could say, for example, MC1R gene, right? The gene that makes people ginger. You could say, okay, I found it, I own it now.
Yes, you could do that. Why was that allowed? The idea was that, first of all, isolating the gene responsible for ginger hair was not easy, and it cost a lot of money and took a lot of time. And so if a company's going to try to find it, why would a company do that? That sounds like a government would do it. A company's only going to do it if they can then recoup all the money that it took, all the resources it took for them to find it. And that means that they need to be able to have rights to study and try different therapies on it or whatever they want to do with the gene for red hair.
Give it to everybody,
right? Whatever they want the exclusive rights to pursue that research and sell such therapies and products. And so governments around the world said, fine, you can do that. We'll give you a patent on that gene. And that doesn't mean that they owned the red hair gene and they could go up to redheaded people and like take it, it's mine. But it meant that they were the only company who could study it, work on it, do all that kind of stuff. But in 2013 in the US, and then I think later on in other countries, they've made similar decisions, which is to say, okay, that's over. Like, we all did a good job. Thanks for finding so many genes. But like, weird and it's potentially like very unethical. So you can no longer patent them.
But okay, then, in conclusion, if you can't patent a gene, if somebody can't own a genetic sequence, a company can't own a genetic sequence, and from that Moore case, it sort of looks like the cells that have left your body kind of don't belong to you. I mean, don't belong to you, they belong to the university. Then we're back in the same place as skeletons then, right? You don't own your own anything.
Here's the thing. You don't own your skeleton. You don't own your cells. You don't, because of that, you don't really own your genome. It can't be patented, but someone could still have it. They could physically possess it in cells.
And buy it, yeah.
But here's what you do own, and we have celebrities to thank for this. You own your right to publicity. Someone could totally have Hannah Fry cells, and they could do whatever they wanted with them. They could sell them so long as you had given them consent.
In the first place, yeah.
In the first place. They could have these long after your death, and they could sell them to universities and make billions of dollars and never give a cent to your children or your grandchildren or whatever.
Let's say you actually do it then. You go to one of these places where it's technically not illegal. I mean, could just everybody, could all of these different people just have their own, I don't know, mini David Bowie?
Only if David Bowie, before he died, or the people who run his estate give someone permission to do that. Not just to create the clone and to use his genome, but also to create new publicity around him, to use his likeness to, do things in the world, looking like him. However, I think that if you're going to create a human non-reproductively, like completely sci-fi future style in a lab, where you have a little machine that puts the base pairs together, one thing that would be interesting to do would be to just make your own brand new person and not clone an individual like David Bowie, but literally say, let's make the orbital of the eye this shape, and you put in the little base pairs the way you want. And here's what's cool. If you do it that way, not only is it your kid, but it's your thing. It's a thing that you can own.
Intellectual property.
You have invented their genome.
Oh, no, that's horrible.
In 2013, it was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court that a gene cannot be patented. However, there have been companies that have taken genes and they've gone in and they've changed a few of the pieces of it into a thing that doesn't naturally appear, and it's been decided that they can patent and own those.
But at the same time, you're not allowed to go in and edit the genome of a baby, because that happened in China. Remember that?
Ah.
So this is, once this became possible with CRISPR, which is where you can literally go in and you have you have your DNA sequences, you can just go in and you can say, right, snip that bit out, insert this instead. And that's literally what you're able to do. And there was a case in China, let me get these details up actually, but a case in China where basically a rogue doctor decided to do this, to edit the genome of an embryo in advance of its birth.
Right.
And there's very strict global rules about this, and the entire scientific community really came down very hard about it. You're not allowed to do that.
If you, as a scientist, edit a gene into something that's now considered an invention of yours, that's one thing. But if it becomes part of an individual who has their own consciousness and rights, then they own it. Which is kind of obvious. I own the rights to my genome. However, my parents don't. Even though they're the ones who invented it.
Yeah, or if you're doing IVF, you own your embryo until it's born. Right?
That's right. And if you have embryos created, you and your partner have to make a lot of decisions before those embryos are even made about what's going to happen, because those embryos contain the genetic sequence for an individual. And if both of you die and that embryo is left, you need to decide ahead of time what you want to have happen with it. And you could just decide thaw and discard, or if both of us are gone, donate them to a couple who can't have kids. And in cases like that where only one partner dies, you also have to decide what happens. For example, I think in general, veto power rules. So if one partner is yeah, I want to use them, and the other one's no, the one who said no gets their way. Yeah, so you can own and patent a gene so long as it's not part of a conscious living human. As soon as it becomes theirs, and like, sorry, it's been public domain, or it's been transferred, rights have been transferred, and you can't own them if they already naturally exist, because then it's just a part of nature that you found. It wasn't actually that long ago that as soon as a person died, they lost all rights to their personality. Like literally, when Marilyn Monroe died, Marilyn Monroe became public domain.
Okay.
Not her movies, but her likeness. You could make posters of her and not give any money to her family.
Many people did.
Many people did. And I think she's still public domain in that sense because she died before the law was passed saying that for at first 50 years after death, now it's 70 years after death, the right to your likeness is an actual thing that passes on to your estate, to your family. And they can make decisions about how your image is replicated.
Is that where we are?
That's where we
actually,
are.
In the great battle of like, unethical uses of science and technology that are extremely dystopian, such as cloning, the people we have to thank for protecting us from vastly overpowerful companies are celebs. That's basically where we are.
That's the truth. Okay. And it's either what you said or it's the celebs that are holding down our ability to just do crazy cloning experiments.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, thank you very much, celebs.
They're just like us.
They're just like us.
And we'll see you next time.
Certainly will. Next time.
Duel 3. Let's rock. Duel 1. Let's rock. Duel 2. Let's rock. Positive bonus. 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 We've got a newcomer. Positive bonus. Perfect.
つまずいてはいられないもの。
Queen Dizzy. Positive bonus. We've got a newcomer. Mankind knew that they cannot change society. So instead of reflecting on themselves, they blamed the beasts. Duel 1. Let's rock!
これが私の見どこ。
Positive bonus. Slap! Duel 2. Let's rock! First match.
お願い。捉えて。氷よ。大雪。大雪。氷よ。見習うべき。
Slap! Duel 3. Let's rock! Slap. Duel 1. Let's rock. Slap. Duel 2. Let's rock. Slap. Duel 3. Let's rock.
もう一つお願い捉えてあっこういう雰囲気捉えて門倉さん
Slap. Positive bonus. We've got a newcomer.
Bit of a national
I got a question for you, Hannah. Tranquility Base. Familiar with the place?
where they landed.
It's where they landed, they being Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. When they landed on the moon and they became the first humans to walk on a celestial body that's not the Earth, they did it at what we call Tranquility Base. And a lot of crap is still there, like hundreds of things. Bags of their poop, as well as the more obvious ones, like the flag they planted, the lower half of the lander.
Any bags of beard hair, Michael?
They have not confessed to leaving any beard hair on the moon.
I like the idea there's a pegboard that's just all their offshoots. Bags of poop though. Footprints as well.
The footprints, now when they left the moon, they had to use this big propulsive blast to escape its gravity. And that blast probably knocked the American flag over. And we know it did because one of them, I forget who, one of them witnessed the flag being knocked over by their ascent. In subsequent missions to the moon, they planted the flag much further from the lander.
Sure.
And those are still standing.
Okay.
But the flag is still there, it's just on the ground. It's also been probably bleached white because there's no atmosphere at all. So solar radiation on the moon is so much stronger than here.
I mean, even if it was on Earth and you left it outdoors,
Even on Earth.
it would be bleached white by now.
Yeah, so they're like white flags of surrender now that America has on the moon, one of which has fallen over. It's a historical place.
Yeah.
and no one's been back. We barely know its status. We've had some satellite photos of it, but they're from high up, above the moon, and the stuff on the moon is so small.
You can't really make it out.
Can't even make it out. How close do you think NASA will allow someone to get to it?
Well, I mean, surely they can't stop other people going.
They can't.
Right. What if, like, the Chinese are like, well, you know what? I don't want there to be a bleached white American flag on the ground. I'm going to change it for a Chinese flag.
Yep, and I'm gonna dance around on Armstrong's footprints and erase them forever.
So rude.
Okay. Now here's the thing, and this is the rub of today's episode. They can't stop you. No international law can stop you. That is what this episode is about. This episode is brought to you by Cancer Research UK.
Scientists have found that cancer risks usually increase with age and size, but some species defy the odds.
For example, deep-sea Greenland sharks. They can grow over 6 meters long, weigh more than a small car, and yet live for up to 400 years.
Now, understanding how Greenland sharks' cellular repair and immune systems seem to have managed to keep them cancer-free for centuries, that could open up exciting research pathways.
Essentially, over millions of years, evolution has been running the world's most successful cancer prevention trial. And sometimes breakthroughs can be found in unusual places.
So, by exploring the unexpected, Cancer Research UK scientists are uncovering new ways to tackle over 200 types of cancer. Their work has helped to double survival in the UK over the last 50 years and continues to save and improve lives around the world.
For more information about Cancer Research UK, their research and breakthroughs and how you can support them, visit cancerresearchuk.org/therestiscience.
Okay, so Hannah, the strongest rule is that NASA has requested that please no one get within 75 meters of the landing site.
Oh.
That's
Because of the historical significance.
Because of the historical significance.
Because they don't own it.
The United States of America agreed in the Outer Space Treaty of the 70s that, yep, no one owns outer space. It's part of the common heritage of mankind. However, I should clarify, that treaty that they agreed to says that outer space belongs to no nation. But technically, it's not illegal to go there, right? It's illegal for a country to say they own Tranquility Base, but it's not illegal for Hannah Fry to hitch a ride on a private rocket, go up there and vandalize the whole historical location.
Yeah, proved that it wasn't there after all. It was just filmed in a studio.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to the future of space travel and humans in space, I always find myself going, yeah, colonizing exoplanets, whatever.
Blah, blah.
What about building a park on Mars that preserves its surface and atmosphere as it was before we changed it? Like, I want the preservation of these places. The moon can become this big metropolis, but there should be large interstellar or interplanetary parks.
Right, so instead of a national park, it's like a interplanetary park.
Exactly. That should be agreed upon and set aside so people can enjoy the way the moon was before it got its human makeover, right?
I have a question though. I feel quite certain that you can, as like a sort of quite joke Christmas present for somebody, buy like a square foot of the moon.
You can give someone money in exchange for a piece of paper that says you own a piece of the moon, is what you can do.
But you do not own the moon.
You don't own that piece of the moon. There's no authority.
You're saying all those certificates I have on my wall are worthless?
They're probably worthless unless you could get a country, preferably one with a strong military, to accept.
I've got enough of them that I'm technically a lord on the moon.
Do you actually have some? Oh, shoot. That would be cool. I mean, especially if you got them as gifts and it wasn't like you wasted your own money.
I do think I have a star.
A star, like named after you or something? Right, okay.
Which is better in a lot of ways, but just feels worse because it's further away.
Well, my dream is to have a extraterrestrial park named after me. Mm-hmm. I don't really care where, but I would love for it to be like, hey, this is the like Michael Stevens Lunar Park. You know, be sure to pick up your trash, you know, that kind of thing.
A lot of people just want a bench, you know?
A bench. I just want a park on the moon. Okay, I'm a simple guy.
Is that too much to ask? Michael enjoyed looking at this moon.
No tombstone. You know what? Give up on my memorial toilet idea on Earth. A memorial toilet on the moon, however, is
Hello.
still in the running. I still want that. Yeah, my dream is that there will be a day where people can visit the moon, and there's like boardwalks they walk on to walk around Tranquility Base, and they can see the first human footprint on the moon. Now, we're not sure what its state is. Was it damaged by the propulsion from the lander lifting off? We don't know. We haven't gotten close enough. But the mementos that they left, the little plaque that says, hey, humans came here in peace and whatever, that's all still there. I guess I just really love the historicalness of it. In fact, there are only 4 archaeological sites that do not lie within the boundaries of a nation.
Of a nation. Okay, so Tranquility Bay being one.
That's one.
Are there others on the moon?
How you define an archaeological site is pretty vague, but there hasn't been a lot of official action taken for the other Apollo landing sites or other lunar probe landing sites. But the state of California and the state of New Mexico have declared Tranquility Base to be of historical importance to the state.
Okay.
And the only reason Texas hasn't, which they should have a claim too, because Mission Control was in Houston, they actually have in their constitution that they cannot claim a historical section of land unless it's within the boundaries of Texas on Earth. So anyway, the point is, Tranquility Base is a significant archaeological site that's not inside a nation. There are 3 others, and they're all 2 of them are the same kind of thing, and one of them is not.
Oh, okay. I reckon surely the ocean has got to be the source of some of this. I reckon Titanic.
The Titanic wreck.
Okay, there's going to be another wreck then. Something like... Oh, what about where the meteor hit?
The
dinosaurs?
Chicxulub crater. No, that's within the boundaries of a nation.
Oh, is it?
At least part of it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But also, that cannot be an archaeological site because, let's define archaeology.
Has to be human made.
That's right. Archaeology is the study of the material culture of humans.
Okay.
Now, often we think of archaeology as being prehistoric stuff, like the oldest of the old stuff, a little clay pot or something. But archaeology just means material culture. So there can be an archaeology of the 1970s.
Sure.
Right?
Last week.
Yeah, of last week.
Yeah.
There can be an archaeology of what the heck did I have for breakfast? And you're looking at the fork and the stain on the fork and you're going, yeah, I had the omelet that turned into scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
See, and you've just done archaeology.
Eggs Royale.
And this isn't me joking. This is really what it is. There's contemporary archaeology where people are studying the material culture and what we can learn of the past from it, of things that aren't even that old, of things that are like happening now even.
Okay, all right. So I've got 2 to get, yeah?
Yeah, so you've got the Titanic and Tranquility Base.
Right, one of them, I think another one has got to be a sort of sunken something.
There's another sunken ship that happens to be sunk outside of the boundaries
Mary
of the nation.
Rose?
I didn't know it.
Go on.
It's the SS Republic, about 100 kilometers off the coast of the U.S. state of Georgia.
Okay.
It was full of gold.
Right.
And I think in the 90s, a private company, managed to get like a third of its gold, which was worth millions. I don't even think it's been resolved yet, but there's some...
Is there still some down there?
There's 2/3 of its gold is still down there.
You know what? Forget going to Tranquility Base. I'm going down there.
To the SS Republic.
Yeah.
I can't believe more people aren't trying to go there.
Hello.
The problem is I think that there's a lot of disputes around it, as you would imagine. It's treasure.
They're not going to be looking the whole time, though.
The last one, you're also not going to guess.
Okay, well, wait. Let me try.
Okay.
So is it not in the ocean?
It's not in the ocean.
And it's not on another planet?
Nope.
Including the moon? So it must be, and it's not part of a nation, so it must be Antarctic.
Dang, that's good, yeah.
I reckon maybe Shackleton's ship?
No.
So it must have been some sort of polar explorer.
Not so much explorer, actually.
Not so much explorer. Go on, tell me.
Hector Station. Does that ring a bell? No. Hector Station was a very old whale oil factory. Wow. Back before petroleum products like completely crushed the market for whale oil, you would catch whales and then you'd have to like squeeze out their
juice. And that was great for lamplights and all kinds of things.
And sea shanties.
And yeah. But you can only squeeze out so much. Like if you really want to get your money's worth out of a whale, you got to boil the whole whale. But transporting a whale back from Antarctica to where you can boil it, very cost prohibitive. So at Hector Station on Desolation Island, that's really the name of it, Desolation Island, Antarctica, they built a big whale boiling factory.
Oh my
and
God.
the tanks are still there, and they look so cool.
Wait,
'Cause
can
it's
I
like
see photos of these?
Look it up. It's like steampunk style, right? It's that era of metal boilers, and they've been abandoned for more than 100 years, and they're all rusted, and it's so middle of nowhere.
Okay, let's look. Whoa, that looks so sci-fi.
It's sci-fi. That's the right word for it. Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like, for those of you who are listening, it looks like the diving suits that people used to wear in the very earliest days of exploring the bottom of the ocean. So you have these gigantic rusted domes. You would just pop a whale in one of those domes and then boil it up.
I think they stored the whale oil in those. I don't know a
see.
lot about the whale oil business.
No, me neither. Wow, this is absolutely incredible. Okay, and then there's like sheds that are all falling apart. And inside it looks very much how you would expect a kind of Victorian era whaling station to look. Incredibly weathered, but also just, I don't know, archaic basically in the design.
And unlike a lot of other Victorian era artifacts, this one is really untouched because no one goes there. No one's built a Pizza Hut and a McDonald's next to it. It was just abandoned, and it's just been there frozen. So it's not being affected by the same kinds of erosion and weather events. I mean, obviously the weather in Antarctica on Desolation Island is not great.
Yeah.
But it's
called Desolation Island,
It's
for goodness
free
sake.
from human intervention.
So no one owns that. No one owns the land of Antarctica
Yeah, it doesn't belong to any particular nation.
because no one lives there permanently. No, I think that there have only ever been, let me see, the number of people born in Antarctica.
Is zero.
No,
Is it not?
it's not zero.
Some pregnant person went to Antarctica?
By that logic, if you take the American rule of if you're born in this land, you're a citizen of it, it's a country of 4 people.
But Antarctica doesn't have birthright citizenship. It has no citizenship. It's not a nation.
No.
It is like by treaty a heritage site for all mankind for scientific research.
It's 11, by the way.
11 people have been
11
born?
people. Yeah, and it's not by accident. They were planned geopolitical maneuvers by Argentina and Chile. To strengthen their territorial claims over the island.
Sure, I was gonna say that's a political move. You don't just
Isn't it?
go there and you're like, oh, I'm kind of pregnant,
Whoops,
but like,
where did this come
oh,
from?
whoops, I missed the boat back. Guess I'll have to deliver it here and become famous. Yeah, I get it. I
No,
get it. So,
it's true.
so in fact, if you'll indulge me, I've got some cool things about archaeology that I want to share, and it's forming a bedrock of where we're going probably in this episode. So when it comes to archaeology, not only is it kind of cool to realize that you can have an archaeology of any time period, but also the definition of an artifact is really neat. How would you define an artifact?
Let me see. I would say it's an object that holds some interest or value.
Yeah, basically. I mean, technically, an artifact is just an object, a physical object that was made or altered by a human.
But then that means everything's an artifact, including the rubbish that you chucked out.
Yeah, that's an artifact for sure. Garbology, it's like a whole emerging field of how to study the behaviors, the diets, and the mindsets of people even just last year as opposed to 20 years ago. You can look through their garbage.
I mean, we had a field notes a little while ago, or maybe coming up, depending on when they release it in the schedule, where we had some garbage of Ice Age humans.
Exactly. And so here's what's actually pretty cool about it. That fossil that you showed, or will show in a future episode, isn't an artifact. It's an ecofact.
Go on.
Because a human didn't make it. It was grown by the reindeer. And the human maybe altered it, but it was all just evidence of maybe a meal that they had.
So like the bones that you chuck in the bin after your KFC
Exactly.
are eco-facts.
Yes, they're called ecofacts or biofacts. And those are things that used to be alive that have some kind of significance to human culture.
Have interacted with the human at some point.
Yeah, and the human may not have technologically done anything to them, but the fact that we find a bunch of bones in that location means that this is where they slaughtered the animals or where they ate or it's where they dumped their trash. Seeds and pollen, those all show us as well things about the lives of humans. But the humans weren't like actively meaning to change these things. But here's where it gets really, really neat. There's also a thing called a geofact.
Go on.
A geofact is a natural rock formation that looks like a human made it, but didn't.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is not something that is geological, that has interacted with humans in some way. This is something that you think might be human linked, but isn't.
Yes.
Are we talking here about, like, for example, the hexagonal rocks that you get, like Giant's Causeway, for instance, where it's like they look so perfectly sculpted that it's really difficult to believe that they occurred by nature?
Yeah, you could call that a geofact. In general, it helps if someone, or if there's even still a continuing debate over whether or not its shape is natural, coincidental, or human-made.
Right.
So, for example, the Venus of Tantan. Look it up.
Okay, hold on.
Now, we've all seen these Venus sculptures. These are some of the oldest artistic creations of representing the human form. Are you looking at it?
This is like Jesus in the toast, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's like Jesus in the toast.
So for those of you who are listening, the Venus of Tantan is a rock, and it could be an artifact or it might be a geofact. There's actually a lot of debate around this, but it's a rock that is shaped somewhat like a person.
Can I give a description?
Please.
Of it? Okay. You've seen those fertility objects that people have crafted tens of thousands of years ago, in particular where they really accentuate like a woman's bust or a woman's hips or a woman's thighs. And there's something of that about this. It's essentially a rock. It's about 6 centimeters tall. It's quite blob shaped. But it looks like it could be just a bad plasticine model of a human. And the things that kind of give away that it's been interacted with is that it when held upright, it almost looks like it's got split into 2 legs. And then there's sort of like a quite flabby butt that hangs over the edge. But I can completely see how turn this another way, and it's just actually a normal rock with a crack in it.
Exactly. It's really hard to tell, and no experts fully agree on whether or not the anthropomorphic shape of that rock is a coincidence or if it's actually a piece of art made that way by an early human. And by early, I mean early. So the Venus of Tantan was a rock found in 1999 in Morocco. And based on the sediments it was found in, it's been dated around 300 to 500,000 years before present.
Wow.
So if it was created by a very early Homo sapien or some other hominid, then that means that it is the oldest by far known representation of a human form or a hominid form. But experts don't know. And I think it almost feels like they might both be right. It could be both. It could be a geofact and an artifact, meaning an intelligent creature may have found that and gone, this kind of looks like a person. I'm going to cut these grooves a bit deeper and add to it so it even looks more like a person.
Right.
But it already did to begin with, and that's why we don't see as many signs of human action as we do. But maybe we see some. So it may have been Earth and humans working together to make a little statue of a person.
Because remind me where we are at this point. So 300,000 years ago, I mean, there's tool use at this point, right?
Yeah, there's fire, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the actual species Homo sapiens is just beginning.
Right.
So it could have been Homo erectus that found that.
But it's not like they have knives, because they haven't got metal.
No, but they would have had other rocks.
Right,
They
flints
could
and
have,
things,
yeah, scraped on it or whatever.
When it was found, the rock that it was found among Did it belong there, or did it look as though was it in a natural environment, as it were?
That is a beautiful question because it brings me to the very next kind, the last kind of artifact I want to talk about. The Venus of Tantan did not look like it just kind of naturally wound up there. And so here's a great word, manuport.
Oh, I love it.
Okay? Manuport is like the word manuscript.
Okay.
Manuscript means handwritten. Manuport means hand carried.
Love it.
And so a manuport is something that we find that has not been technologically altered or made by humans.
But it's in the wrong place.
But it's in the wrong place.
Oh, I love these.
Same with the Venus of Tantan. It might have been that an early hominid, could have been Homo sapien, saw it, said, that's a cool rock, picked it up, carried it with them, showed it to their friends. Maybe they did some extra scraping to like really accentuate the human form that they saw in it. And then they lost it. And then we found it later. It's at a place, so it's a manuport. But whether or not it's just a manuport or if it's actually an artifact because it was made is an unknown question. But let me bring up an even cooler manuport.
I'm absolutely here for this. You're talking my language.
Okay, so this is cooler.
Sorry, did you say rocks, Michael? Yes, I will have a long conversation about rocks. Thank you.
This is my favorite. It's called the Makapansgat Pebble, and it was discovered in the 1920s, but based on where it was found, it's been dated to nearly 3 million years ago. Yes.
Wait, is that when it was formed?
No, that's when it was laid on the ground.
Right, because it's found amongst other sediments.
That's right. It's been found amongst other sediments and other layers have piled up on top of it for almost 3 million years. To be precise, I don't know how they dated this to this degree, but it's 2.95 million years ago. It was left on the ground and lost.
Where is this again?
This was discovered in South Africa.
Okay.
In the 1920s.
Right.
And for those of you who are watching, this is what it looks like. For those of you listening, it looks like a pebble that happens to have 3 little divots cut in it, like the holes in a bowling ball.
It looks like a face.
It looks like a face.
It looks like a face. It looks like a really crude skeleton.
Yeah, it does look like a bit of a skull, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But it's been studied really intensively, and there's just no evidence at all that this was carved by a creature. And I say creature because there were no Homo sapiens 3 million years ago. This would have been, in fact, in the same sediment, like nearby, they found skeletons of Australopithecus specimens. That's like an early hominid before humans as Homo sapiens evolved. Okay, this becomes almost certainly a manuport, almost certainly an instance of, let me also clarify that it's made of jasperite. And the nearest jasperite that you could even find is at least 32 kilometers away from where it was found.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's hard to believe anything but the story that 3 million years ago, an Australopithecus, an early hominid animal that no longer exists, that probably walked upright. We don't even know. All we know is that a creature of that age, of that era, found that rock. And for some reason, carried it for dozens of kilometers. Probably because they thought, guys, this kind of looks like a face, right?
Oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing.
It's really cool, and it's because it is so old, it also gives us a peek at what might be at least a bridge into the first abstract symbolic thought that hominids ever had.
Because maybe this creature thought it was worth holding on to because it had the face inside it. Because basically the creature did the Jesus in the toast thing and was like, that's pretty cool.
Exactly, the Jesus in the toast thing, the pareidolia thing. Now, animals fall for this all the time. I mean, you can put a cucumber behind a cat, and if it turns and looks, it'll think it's a snake at first often and jump, right? This is like not new. But to look at a rock and go, hey, that's kind of like our faces, and then to pick it up and carry it with you is a different sort of behavior. Raccoons and birds, they love interesting things. They like shiny things.
I mean,
They're
look,
curious.
I've got a dog who has had a branch that they were obsessed with, that they really particularly wanted to keep and take home.
That's right. And I think there's a lot of things they love about that stick, but I don't think that it abstractly resembles a prototypical geometric shape that they're used to, like their own face.
And maybe it's this is just a coincidence. Maybe just the fact that these marks on it that have this face-like structure is just a total fluke. But it does seem extremely unusual that you would have this artifact that had been carried so far in an era where so few creatures could do it.
Exactly.
And it not be because of what it looked like.
Yeah. And I want to be careful. Your dog might actually look at that stick that he loves, or that she loves, and go, "You remind me of my mother." But probably not. But I'm open to that possibility.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of other reasons why a dog would carry a stick around. They love chewing on sticks. Sure. But there aren't a lot of other reasons to carry this stone around for so long. So it could be evidence that as early as 3 million years ago, hominids were starting to think and see and categorize in these like ever increasingly abstract ways.
Do you know what? I think that's my favorite story you've ever told me.
Oh, really?
I really, really, really love that. I really love that.
Makapansgat pebble. It blew my mind when I read about it.
It's geology and anthropology and like the wonder of humanity and our existence and where we came from and our ancestors, but there's something also that just like really connects us, that we're all sort of the same, right? Like all creatures like, hey, look at this cool thing, isn't it awesome? And then the idea that there's this one physical object that has had this journey that then has been found, and now all of us are like, wow, what is this? There's something so alien and yet so comforting about it.
I want to eventually get into talking about space archaeology.
Just before... Oh, go on, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I think... Thank
This
you.
better be important. This better be good.
The thing that I often think about is that this idea that we are so locked into that every single parcel of land within a nation has titles, deeds, ownership. I mean, this really wasn't always the case.
No, and it doesn't have to.
And it doesn't have to. And it's sort of, if you think about in nature, it doesn't make any sense that you would have hard, distinct boundaries between landscapes that say this is mine and this is yours.
Well, animals are certainly territorial.
Sure.
But humans have constructed a giant edifice of ritual and law and enforcement around this concept of ownership. And it's incredibly intricate. And unlike other animals, humans also do things pretty differently, because like a wolf pack might claim their territory, right, and defend it or whatever. But they don't ask questions that we can, like, well, wait a second, if this is our territory, how far down does it go? And how far up? Are those birds in our territory? They don't ask that. But people ask this all the time. I think we've actually been emailed this question quite a few times.
Okay.
Like, okay, so I own my land, but like how far up into the sky does my claim go and how far down?
When a plane goes over my house, do I own it?
That's right.
Does it need to pay me rent?
Can I charge them for the few seconds that they were over my property, or the fraction of a second? And you can't. There was an ancient like Latin phrase, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce it, but the phrase meant whoever owns the soil owns everything up to heaven and down to hell. And that just made sense to them. But of course, they had that saying before the invention of airplanes, before the discovery of oil, before it was recognized that deposits of certain metal ores would be valuable as a separate right to sell or give to others. And so today, how high above your land and how down below it you own is either very legislated based on where you live, or not at all, because it just doesn't come up, right? People will say things like, well, do I own like 3 miles below me? Sure, why not? It's
Really?
never going to come up. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do with land 3 miles below your house with like the rocks down there? How are you going to get at them? You have the right to them, perhaps? but you don't have the right to bring in the heavy machinery required to do a super deep borehole down below your ground because of all kinds of regulations and ordinances.
So you just can't ever get to it.
You just can't get to
Okay,
it.
but then the oil one is a really interesting example, because what if there's an oil field that goes underneath your house? Do you have a right? Do you have a claim over that portion?
Again, it depends on where you live. In most places in Texas, you don't. They make it very clear that you own the surface rights to your
Right.
property. And that's because there's a lot of oil there, and they thought about this, and they've already sold all the rights to any oil found in this area to certain companies or individuals. So if you find oil, you probably found someone else's oil. And that can be very annoying. And then when it comes to the airspace above your land, the Supreme Court in the United States actually had to say something about this because people were complaining about airplanes. And by people, I mean, at first it was farmers, that airplanes were flying too low over their land. And the Supreme Court was like, here's the problem. Like, I know it's been this thing for a long time that you own everything up to heaven above your land.
I mean, it's in Latin, for goodness sake.
It's
It tells
in
you how
Latin.
old it is.
You know, it's very persuasive, but it's just not reasonable anymore. Like, we cannot allow all landowners to constantly be leasing out their airspace to every single airplane that might have to
Sure.
fly over. And so the answer in most jurisdictions is that you own the area above your land up to a height of reasonable use.
What is that, though? What is reasonable use?
It depends on what you're doing. Like, you cannot build a structure of a certain height because of different zoning restrictions.
Here's what I'm thinking, though. Let's say I've got a neighbour that I really intensely dislike. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm talking about this in my sort of, London townhouse. Okay. Can I build a really, 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 really tall ladder? Okay. On my land,
Yeah.
above my house, and then a platform that goes over the top of their house that just blocks out the sun, so they don't get any sun.
No, you probably can't. I'm sure there are regulations on what sorts of structures you can build on your land.
Okay, new idea. Can I get a hot air balloon and permanently hover above their house?
Well, you've got to have a license to operate a hot air balloon because other people could be harmed by mistakes that you made or accidents caused by your operation of a hot air balloon. So what I'm getting at is that if you say you own the airspace above your home, but also airplanes can fly over it, then what does it really mean to say you own it? Because there are already laws against all the different ways we can imagine using that space. Same with the space down below. Now that does bring up some pretty fun questions like, all right, but who owns the center of the Earth?
Right, because also, actually, if you think about the surface and going down to the centre, if you peel it off in shells, they get smaller and smaller as you go down.
Yeah.
So there's more and more claims on
That's right. So the wedges of land on the surface, they just come to a point at the center.
teeny tiny in the
So
centre.
someone made a joke once that like near the center of the Earth, like everyone's your neighbor.
It's true.
And so again, there hasn't been a lot of official judicial rulings on this because it never comes up.
Right, but there's good stuff down there.
There's good stuff down
Really
there.
good stuff down there.
I mean, to put this into perspective, the Earth is, what's the radius of the Earth?
It's 6,371 kilometres on average.
On average. Okay, I was going to say, there's definitely...
Let's be precise here.
Excuse me, which axis are we measuring here? But all that matters is 6,000 is a really big number. And that's the distance from the surface of the Earth to the center. The deepest anyone has ever dug is not 6,000, not 1,000, but 12.
12?
12 kilometers is the depth of the Kola super deep borehole.
What?
Which the Russians dug.
That's nothing.
It's nothing. It's only a third of the way through the crust. It's like not even close to the next part, the mantle that we all learn about in school, and like we haven't even gotten halfway there.
This is really destroying my plans to dig all the way through and have a bungee jump system.
Yes.
That you just bounce back and forth forever.
The borehole that they dug, I think a lot of the reason they did it was a sort of inverse space race.
See how far you can go.
Yeah, and can we beat the Americans at it? Because America had tried something like this and they gave up. And so the Russians were like, well, we didn't beat them to the moon, but we can beat them to the mantle.
How hard can it be?
How hard could it be? Turns out terribly hard. And surprisingly hard, and frighteningly hard.
Go on.
Here's what they did. So they start digging, right? And they're going to dig and they get deeper and deeper. And they don't really know what to expect. Like, one hypothesis was that there's not going to be any water after a certain depth because the ground will become too densely packed for
Makes
even
sense.
water to permeate.
Too much pressure.
But they kept finding water, like liquid water, way deeper than any scientist at the time thought was possible.
Like pools of water, or are we talking about just sort of soaked into the porousness of the rock?
I actually don't know. I don't think they found underwater
Lagoons.
ponds, but it was wet. Also, they figured that down there, beyond 10 kilometers down, the temperature could be above boiling, like 100 Celsius, 212 Fahrenheit.
That is hot.
Yeah, they expected it to be hot, but it was hotter than they'd expected. Instead of being about 100, it was like 180 Celsius, like 365, like hot roasting potato temperature.
Whoa.
Down 12 kilometers below the Earth.
God.
And we still don't know why it was so much hotter than expected.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first thing you go to is hell is real. And they were getting close.
I feel like that's the only sensible explanation.
So they stopped. Like they just stopped. And not because they were scared, because at that pressure and heat, the stone, the rock that they were drilling through stopped acting like stone and acts like plastic. And the drag, like the grip that the material had on the drill bit just made it didn't work.
I also want to know, for 12 kilometers down, did they have like stages where it's like you start off with a really big borehole and then you have a slightly smaller one and then a slightly smaller one? Or are you just like, is it just a 12 kilometer long drill bit?
It's just, oh no, they don't have a 12 kilometer long drill bit, but I don't know how you drill a hole that deep.
Right.
I don't know, actually. But I have always wondered, like, where are these 12 kilometer long drill bits? I think they have
Watch out,
shafts.
guys, coming through.
They've got shafts that I'm sure are like segmented, and they'll drill until it's at the bottom, and then they have to like pull it up, and they'll only pull up to like a joint, and then they'll separate at the joint, add in another section, and then go down. So you're not having to pull the whole thing out every time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I actually went on Jimmy Kimmel to talk about this borehole.
This exact borehole.
I mentioned it in a video, and then someone from his team called up and they were like, Jimmy wants you to talk about big holes.
I can do that, Jimmy.
And I played up the heat thing a bunch on the show. I was like, it was hotter than they expected, and they said. But I didn't explain that it was because of the material properties of the stone.
That
it wasn't because like a demon came out or anything.
What you're saying is we get the director's cut version that you did not give.
That's
to
right.
Jimmy.
This is the extended director's cut of my Jimmy Kimmel appearance. Okay, so I wanted to say
When was this, by the way?
The borehole, the Kola super deep borehole, was completed in 1989, reaching just a little over 12 kilometers in depth.
I mean, if you turn that into a super cellar, you could have swimming pools down there, you could have cinema rooms down there, ballrooms down there.
It's really narrow. It's like this. It's like you couldn't really even fit your head down it.
Yeah, okay. Swimming pool for ants.
A swimming pool for ants, that's right. But it's a swimming pool for no one right now, because you know what they did?
Tell me.
They just welded a lid over it.
What?
Yep. So there's like a little, like smaller than a manhole, because this is a thin borehole, and they've just welded it over, and you can't even like drop things down it.
Okay, but if you did open it up and just like drop something down it and be like, listen, for 12 kilometers before it hits the bottom.
How long would that take, I wonder? It's a very simple calculation.
I think people falling down wells, by the way, used to be a quite common occurrence. And
it doesn't happen like it should anymore. Times are just getting worse.
Sometimes I think we forget to be grateful about the society that we live in now. But falling down a well is not something that we continually
That's
have to
right.
contend with.
Like kids today are all on their phones. Back in my day, they were falling down wells like God intended. Yeah, I mean, look, wells they're great, but I think that like even when I was a kid, there was baby Jessica who fell down a well and was rescued.
Who's baby Jessica?
Oh my gosh, you're so not American.
I know. What gave it away?
Look it up, guys. It's a heroic story. Since then, I think just municipal water supply to rural areas has made wells a lot less prevalent and a lot less, therefore, dangerous.
All the same, though, the Kola borehole is
Super deep borehole.
Super
Give
deep
it credit.
borehole. is almost certainly full of water now.
Probably, right?
Boiling at the bottom. Oh, maybe it's a bit of a geyser.
A bit of, you mean a geyser? Is that how you guys pronounce geyser?
A geyser.
A gazer.
It's a word with double meaning. A bit of a geyser.
Right, but geezer also means like an old person.
A geyser is definitely male.
Okay.
Somebody who would enjoy football and drinking pints of beer.
That's so different. In America, a geezer is a really old person.
Is it?
Oh, look at those geezers. And it's like some people who can barely walk.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a bit of a wine boy, you know?
No, I don't.
Someone who probably enjoys betting.
That's what a geezer is to you.
Bit of a geezer.
Or it's a spout of water from
Yeah.
geothermal heat.
Yeah, because that's what happens there, right? Is that you have a really long crack that runs down, or a hole that runs down. Nowhere near as far as the super deep borehole. But if you get like a crack that appears, so not just vertically but horizontally, where you get superheated water.
Ah, like a kettle, like a natural
like a kettle, right? And then the pressure difference can mean that will sort of need to release as it builds up. The pressure builds up and it releases, and then you end up these like spouts of water. You get them in Iceland a lot, for example.
Yeah.
one called
And you call it a
Skrokko.
geezer, and I call it a geyser.
Yeah, I
Like the
have a
old
feeling it might be an
faithful.
Icelandic word.
Because I don't live that far away from Yellowstone National Park,
Oh yeah, of course.
where you've got Old Faithful. I think they're called geysers because the first English speakers to see one were like, "Hey, what's that?" And some dude was like, "Ah, that's just the Old Faithful, guy." And then he realized it was his superior and goes, "Sir." That's called a belabored pun.
I enjoy that. I enjoy that. Geyser is an Icelandic word, and you do say it geyser in British English. I didn't just make it up.
I'm sure you didn't. Yeah.
It is a hot spring in southwestern Iceland called Geyser. Geyser. Old Norse means to gush.
So the word geyser for the natural phenomenon comes from the Icelandic geyser.
Can I tell you the Americanism, the American
Yes,
word that
please.
annoys me the absolute most?
Yeah.
Entrees to mean main course.
Yeah, I know.
That is so annoying.
I know. That has been a huge point of confusion for my daughter because she sees on a menu entree. Mm-hmm. And my wife considers that the appetizer.
Which is in France, it's the starter. It's the
as it
beginning.
should be, because the word is like the introduction,
yeah,
the
the beginning.
entrance,
Yeah.
the entree.
Yeah.
But then in America, I don't know why, but I'm sure there's a good reason why. Now it means your main course.
does.
And so my daughter hears from my wife that it means appetizer, and then from me doing the etymology that it means the beginning. And then we're like, but disregard what we've said, because actually it means the main course.
There was once when I was filming in Northern California with the Yurok tribe, with some indigenous Americans, talking about ownership of land. I mean, the whole idea of land being kind of cut up into parcels that are owned by individual people is something that just didn't make any sense at all
Yeah.
to the indigenous Americans. And it's still ongoing fights about exactly that. And I was there filming with them about a story around a river and the ownership of the river. Anyway, I got on really well with this chief. He's really amazing. And as we were chatting, I mentioned to him how annoying I found the entree thing. And I sort of said to him, you know what, I think the worst thing about Americans is that they do this, right? Is that this is what they do. And his response was, okay. The worst thing, the worst thing that Americans, the worst thing of all, that's the thing that annoys you the absolute most. Everything else they've done to the tribe that you're here to
Pales
see.
in comparison,
Pales in comparison.
to this entree business.
Right,
yeah.
but hear me out though, 'cause here's my argument. Because I think what's clearly happened there is that they've sort of taken a bit of French culture, taken it for their own, and not paid any respect for the origin of where it
So
came
it's
from.
the same thing.
Thin end of the wedge, Michael.
Yeah. My goodness.
I found another manuport.
You got to show it to me.
Because it's really good. Okay, 300,000 years ago.
Okay.
Also Morocco.
Oh, I know what it is.
Ah!
I know what it is.
good.
It's the
Cuttlefish.
the air food cuttlefish.
Yes.
Were you just looking them up,
I'm
or
just
did you already
looking
know
them up.
about it?
No, I'm just looking it up.
Okay, so I didn't know if this would be appropriate for the podcast, but yes. Do you want to tell us about it?
Sure, I can tell you. So this is it's a cuttlefish fossil, and
It's part of a cuttlefish fossil.
okay, but it was found at a site near the towns of Erfurt and Rissani in eastern Morocco, found among a dense cluster of stone tools, right? So really early humans. No evidence of carving or shaping have been detected. Cuttlefish fossils are not native to this region at all.
Right.
So it has been moved. It has definitely been manuported. And the reason why this one is quite famous is because it looks very phallic, shall we say.
Like, so much so that Wikipedia doesn't even have an image of it on
right,
there. So I
is-
had to Google it, and as soon as I Googled it, everyone eating breakfast around me was like, this guy.
Honestly,
I couldn't believe it.
You could not have this up on your screen at work. Put it
No.
that way.
And so you can clearly see why a prehistoric, like earliest Homo sapien possible, 'cause 300,000 years ago is about when our species emerged, saw that and was like, guys, oh my gosh, you got to show this to Sarah. And they like carry it around forever. It's a big joke. And it's a cuttlefish fossil
Right.
that suddenly appears in Morocco, very far from where it originated.
This makes me, I cannot tell you how happy this makes me.
Isn't it? It's like something that we share that hasn't changed in
Right.
us for millennia.
300,000-year-old dick jokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
And so what would you say is going on here? Because I don't think there's an experience that non-human animals have that's like this. We know that birds and raccoons and they all love curious, shiny things.
Sure.
But they don't hold them on, pass them around, as far as we know, especially for reasons that are so abstracted away. They might think it's curious because it's shiny, but they don't go, this looks like, remember that one time, Ted, when your pants fell down? That's and then it's like a whole running gag their whole lives and
Yeah.
through generations. But that's what these manuports
That's
represent.
what they are. That's what they are. Absolutely amazing. Tell you what this makes me wonder though, is like, in 300,000 years' time, what are the things that are going to be left? What are the things that people are going to see where they infer how we are and how, our own character and the things that we find funny and the things that we find amusing?
Exactly. And that's why I started with Tranquility Base, because
Right.
we are still living in constantly what will be archaeological sites for the future. And increasingly, these significant, like super significant human archaeological sites will not even be on Earth. And so being mindful of how we preserve them is a great gift that we can give to people in the future. When Hector Station was being used in Antarctica, they didn't think like, hey, this is a great way for us to preserve Victorian industry. They just abandoned it and it's kind of falling apart and rusted. But we can say, no one touch Tranquility Base. No one touch the Perseverance rovers, and we can leave the Curiosity, leave it there. We're going to eventually make it an exhibit right in situ, right where it is. And this isn't just like a little like poetic dream of mine. It's happening now, and it makes me so happy. So there's a group out of Chapman University and USC out of Southern California, and they're running a program, or they ran a program for many years, very recently, just in the last 3 or 4 years. And the program was called the Sampling Quadrangle Assemblages Research Experiment,
Catchy.
or SQUARE.
Ah,
Okay, it's right.
You academics.
I know. But here's what they did. They said, guys, the International Space Station is this whole new kind of human settlement
Yeah.
where there are people who live there and they have to work with completely different variables. There is gravity.
There's no G.
There's no G. There's no weight. And we're just kind of like updating it all the time, and new people come in and leave. And like, we need to remember how early space livers lived. So they made little taped squares, quadrangles, all over the ISS. And like every few minutes or every few hours, the astronauts would take a picture of that square, everything that was in that taped square. They didn't pose it. These weren't posed photos. This was just like, oh, I got to take that photo of the table. And they would do it. And so you learn by looking at these, like, oh, that's how often they use frosting. And hey, what was that? Oh, that's a thing that they were doing as this joke one day. And you tell the story very candidly, very fly on the wall about human culture in the 2020s in outer space. And it's preserved better than what probably would be left to people in the future if we didn't take photos like that.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it just ends up being erased by what comes immediately after it.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. I guess we're looking back in the past at these tiny little fragments, these like whispers of what went before. And it's only by actively and proactively making the choice to try and preserve what we have that we're leaving anything for the future.
I know, and just like these Australopithecus left us a funny face-shaped rock, and it shows us their transition from like ape thinking to hominid thinking. Who knows what we're doing that in 3 million years will give evidence, important evidence of how we were, changing from, say, a meat consciousness to an expanded or shrunk digital consciousness, right? And these are things that we take for granted. But preserving them, whether they be here on Earth or elsewhere, is, I think, not just a responsibility we have, but a really fun thing to do.
Well, one way for you guys to preserve your love for this podcast is to like and subscribe, basically.
That's a very good point. Do you
This
want
is the
people
archaeology.
Do you want people in the future to not know whether you were subscribed to The Rest Is Science? Could your legacy live with that kind of embarrassment?
Look, you need to do your part for humanity, okay? And it's very simple. Do your bit. Or, as ever, you can send us an email to therestiscience@gohanger.com.
And we will see you next time.
We certainly will. Thank you.
Positive bonus.
ほら、お願い。
片付けます。はい。失礼です。投げますね。
Slap. Duel 2. Let's rock. Danger. Slap. Duel 3. Let's rock.
遅いです。
ネクロ。抑える。
重いです。通りませんね。静かに。
Slap. Duel 1. Let's rock.
広がる炎に門倉さん
動かないで。
ダメよ
ダメだ、眠い。
Slap! Duel 2. Let's rock!
シュッと。狙いの。すみませんね。行きます。
捕らえて参ります止めない
重いですよ。すみませんね。
負けない
行きます。
First match.
私のおとなしく
行きます。遅いです。
こらやめなさい捕らえたはずに
それじゃあ。
危ない
重いですよ。別にいいか。
Slap!